we start to see symptoms of civilizational decline. That comes in stages, and those stages are predictable. When you have a debasement of money, you are debasing civilization itself. We see it in our education. We see it in our food, in our architecture, in our relationships. We see it in our health. When money stops working and we are forced to survive here and now, we see it very clearly in every society that has devalued their currency, that they stop building for the future.
This episode of the Free Cities podcast is brought to you by Veritas Villages. Now, Veritas Villages are freedom-oriented, energy self-sufficient luxury communities designed for people who want to enjoy peace of mind and real freedom in today's unpredictable world. Join a community of like-minded neighbours who value privacy and independence in a place where you can use Bitcoin, including for the purchase of your property. www.veritasvillages.com/free cities for more info, and in the meantime, enjoy the conversation. It's not like I drink a lot out of water bottles. We have our own spring at home. I live on a kind of farm.
Congratulations. I mean, this is what, drinking out of a plastic bottle, the reason we do it is for convenience.
Correct.
And I mean, convenience always comes at a cost.
Yeah.
But it is one of the low-hanging fruits if we really want to be eliminating microplastics.
But you don't reckon they're such a big deal then?
It could be. We don't know yet. That's the only thing we can say. But I mean, you could say that you're arguing from first principles when you say that introducing foreign objects into the body and you find them in all kinds of tissues. Like just recently, there was a study that came out about finding excessive amounts of microplastics in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. Small study, but it still had power. It still had statistical significance. But correlation does not equal causation. There's a lot of smoke, not a lot of fire. And so far, we have absolutely no evidence that microplastics is damaging the human physiology. We can only see correlates, but no evidence of anything yet. Still, it makes sense if it's not too cumbersome to just eliminate a lot of it. Like the sources, the primary sources through which we absorb microplastics are actually not water bottles. I think they come in second or third place. I think the first one is just being a human being in a modern society.
Really?
Yes.
Like from where though? Like where are microplastics hanging around? I know chopping boards, but that seems like a pretty brutal example.
Yeah. The honest answer is we don't know. They are everywhere. Forever chemicals and microplastics are so abundant and so ubiquitous that it's like the air we breathe now. We just cannot escape them. So that's the primary source, just everywhere, essentially. But that's not saying anything. So if we disregard that source, we are left with clothes and water bottles as our primary sources. And those are pretty low-hanging fruits if you would just want to get rid of some microplastics. Just say bye-bye to cheap plastic clothes and water bottles. Then the occasional use, I'm sure, is fine. I don't think this is something that we need to worry about. There's a lot of things we can do to improve our health that doesn't involve going the extra mile with stuff that you enjoy. If you live a life where drinking out of a water bottle is part of your daily routine because it suits your life, your routines, I am absolutely not going to judge you on that. And I don't think you need to worry too much about that. There's a lot of other things that can go wrong. And we also have to remember that right now we live in what I call the second medical paradigm. This is actually part of my talk, my longevity talk. So we have advanced from the first medical paradigm. The first medical paradigm This was the vast majority of human history. 99.99% of our history.
You mean, but there's quite a big difference between, breaking your leg as a Neanderthal and breaking your leg now. I mean,
yes, exactly.
But you call that the same paradigm?
No, that's a different paradigm.
Oh, right, okay.
So in the first medical paradigm, I call that survival medicine. We had 4 horsemen back then, 4 big killers. They were starvation, trauma, infection, and childbirth complications. Then we discovered antibiotics, anesthesia. We discovered germ theory. And we had some economic development and some modern sanitation. This essentially addressed the root causes of the big killers of the era of survival medicine. And that launched us in the 20th century into the second medical paradigm where we are now. And I call this paradigm management medicine. So with each paradigm shift in medicine, you address the root causes of the previous horsemen, the previous big killers. And then you face new challenges. So what we're facing now instead are things like cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, mostly Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, cancer, and metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes. So,
sorry to butt in, but are you saying cancer is a modern occurrence, or just that we're living so long now that it shows up?
These 4 horsemen, these 4 big killers in aggregate account for 90% of all deaths and 90% of all healthcare costs. And cancer is a group of about 200 different illnesses that essentially have nothing in common with one another. So when we say find a cure for cancer, that's just
nonsense.
Yeah, it's nonsense. There are about 200 different diseases. We group them together because they look similar under the microscope. Essentially, it's about cells mutating and running amok. The cellular internal apparatus, the cellular society, is collapsing, losing the restrictions on how the cell divides. So it divides like fiat money, just indefinitely and uncontrollably. That's why the cancer metaphor is such a great metaphor for the fiat system. Anyway, so even if we were to address, let's say that we were to cure all cancers, if we were to cure all cardiovascular disease, if we were to cure all metabolic disorders, we are still going to die from something like an infection. When we reach when we go deep into old age, when we reach biological, when we get really old and we have become fragile, we don't have the resources to combat these diseases. And if we cure Alzheimer's, well, then you're going to die of a heart attack instead. If we cure cardiovascular disease, then you're going to die of a neurodegenerative disease. If we cure that, you're going to die of cancer. And all of these diseases, they are inevitable biological consequences of aging. Everybody's going to have all of these diseases, these 4 horsemen of this era, if they just live long enough. It's an inevitable consequence of biological aging. And that's why we're now, again, for the second time in human history, moving into another medical paradigm. And I get goosebumps just thinking about this. Because now we are finally, we have finally arrived at a technological state of society where we can actually produce, where we can actually conduct research into the aging of the biology of aging, and we can address the root cause of these 4 horsemen, which is the aging cell. So now we have a new and emerging field in medicine, which is called biogerontology, longevity medicine.
So what did you say?
Biogerontology. Gerontology.
Oh, geron, as in geriatric.
Yes, exactly.
Gerontology. Yeah. I've never heard that word before.
That's the real term for longevity medicine. And it's a new and emerging field that is just upending an entire paradigm of modern medicine, period. Because what we're doing now is that we are finally addressing the root causes of the 4 big killers we have today: neurodegenerative disease, cancer, metabolic disorders, and cardiovascular disease. But by tackling the root cause, which is the aging cell, we are tackling aging itself. And here's Tim, here's something very, very crucial that for some reason triggers a lot of people. Like what we're doing now, the next paradigm of medicine is about treating aging itself. And people are countering this with, like, this is going to create ageism, and it's there's nothing wrong with aging. Aging is natural. Yeah, fair. Aging is absolutely natural. So is having heart attacks, cancer, and Alzheimer's and diabetes. In fact, you are going to have all of those if you just live long enough. It's an inevitable consequence of biological aging. They are as natural as becoming old and frail. Or rather, becoming old and frail is as natural as those diseases. And what we call a disease is entirely arbitrary. A disease is a human invention, not the phenomenon, but what we call a disease is a human invention. It wasn't until just a few decades ago that both Alzheimer's and osteoporosis were not diseases. They were natural aging. But it's important to put the label disease on something that we want to treat, because that allows us to actually fund research and produce the technology that we need to treat those conditions.
And they're basically, getting old is basically aging cells. That's essentially it. And Alzheimer's is aging of the cells in your brain, maybe? I don't know. Maybe.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes. So here's a radical notion. Cancer, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, these are not diseases. They are symptoms of the same underlying condition, which is the aging cell. And the aging cell is a consequence of about 9 different diseases at the cellular level. So now we are increasing granularity. We are understanding the cell better. So the human story can in a way be told through the journey of how we understand the cell. First, for many generations, we did not know that we were made of cells. Then we discovered the cell. We realized that we were made of tiny structures called the cell. Then we learned that they operate like societies, that they are alive in themselves. And they don't know about us. And we discovered that we are vastly more of something other than ourselves in terms of the amount of biomass that we have in our bodies. You can look at yourself as a composite of a variety of different systems. You have all of your bacteria, for example, that is absolutely crucial to you being alive. Then you have your immune system, which is like an entirely different being than you. It's like an entirely different being living inside of you. It has to learn to recognize you as you. It has to undergo a process that is done in early age in the thymus, which is an organ just behind your chest bone, where they learn about something called the missing self. So any structure, any protein in the body, any structure that has entered the body and doesn't contain certain proteins that say this is the human being, this is the organism that we're protecting. it's going to attack that. So the immune system lives within us, and it is an entity of its own that has to learn what you are, and then protect itself, protect the organism, and attack everything else. Then we have the nervous system, which is maybe what we associate with the most, but that's an entirely different being as well. So we consist of these systems, and we have this illusion of being a coherent being. We have this illusion of being, of having a coherent story. And one of the most frightening things that you can do as a person is to shatter that belief. There are a variety of ways of doing so. I know this is a tangent on a tangent. This is what happens when we don't have a
framework.
have a proper framework.
I've got an idea for a proper framework. I think I'd like to hear, before we go any further, I'd like to hear your personal story, which is that you're a doctor.
Yes.
You're a practicing doctor.
Yes.
What would we would call some like a GP, a general practitioner? Is that
yes? Yes, I'm a GP. It's a very unfortunate name, and this warrants some clarification what it means to be a GP. A lot of people think that being a GP is something that you become straight out of med school. It is not. Med school is 5.5 years where I study. Then you do rotations for about 2 years, where you do 3 months of medicine, 3 months of surgery, 3 months of psychiatry, and about half a year of primary care. Then after that, you start to specialize, and that's 5 years, regardless of what you do, whether you do surgery, whether you do pediatrics, whether you do primary care. And I went into primary care, and being a specialist in primary care is a much better term than a GP.
What is primary care? Give me an example of what primary care is.
So we do essentially everything.
I'm trying to narrow it down. Okay, you do everything.
Yeah, we do essentially everything. We do eyes, we do ears, nose, throat. We do neurology. We do internal medicine. We do surgery. We do psychiatry. We do pediatrics. We do geriatrics. We do gynecology. We do essentially everything, but we do the most, like the surface level things.
Right. Diagnosing
and treating. So we do the common stuff, and our job is to take care of all the common stuff. We can do quite a lot until we have to send you to an organ specialist. So like when I send somebody to, a psychiatrist, for example, it's not because that person is necessarily too challenging. It's because we treat different diagnoses. Most of the diagnoses in psychiatry that we treat, they don't even see. We take care of most depression. We take care of most PTSD. We take care of most anxiety. We take care of, we diagnose and treat some psychosis. But then there's some conditions that we don't treat. We don't do OCD, for example. We don't do severe psychosis. We don't do therapy-resistant depression. And we don't do the social cases that require a lot of interprofessional engagement. And so those are the reasons where we send them off to an organ specialist. Like conditions that we just don't treat because the condition is too dangerous to be. You need to up the level of care, or just stuff where it's too cumbersome. Like we can't tie all the threads together. But other than that, we do most things. Yeah.
But the reason that you and me are talking now is because you're a Bitcoiner, and you wrote a book about Bitcoin, I would say. Yeah. I honestly haven't read it myself, but just from the title. It's called Abundance Through Scarcity.
Abundance Through Scarcity. I'm very proud of the title.
Yeah, it's a good title. Yeah. I mean, can you first of all, because I straddled two worlds for quite a long time, I think it's fair to say, the world of filmmaking and Bitcoin. and I discovered it was quite difficult to keep a foot in both, because one of them started meaning less and less and less to me as I got further and further into the other one. You, by the sounds of it, have straddled these two worlds, let's say Bitcoin and health, but you appear to have found a way to bridge the two. And I'm quite interested to hear how that is. I honestly don't know what the thread is, but I hope you're going to tell me. Maybe you give us a bit quick thesis on the book first. Might help us understand.
Yeah, so it is challenging to juggle. I work 150% as a doctor. I work at 2 different clinics, and then I'm writing, and I'm active in the Bitcoin community as a speaker. I'm working on a second book, and all of this is completely manageable if you just focus on staying single and having regular panic attacks.
And you don't even treat panic attacks in your practice.
No, so essentially what I'm so proud about when it comes to abundance through scarcity is that it manages to do a lot of things. It lays out a thesis on how we are in a civilizational decline, going towards collapse, and how Bitcoin is a shield against that. And it lays out the thesis on how we achieve abundance through scarcity. And also packed within that book, there's also a lot of cool sci-fi gems and a lot of thought experiments about Bitcoin, like big picture stuff, the kind of big picture ideas about Bitcoin that just blow my mind, just philosophical aspects. So if you really want to understand Bitcoin from a fundamental perspective, I suggest you don't go into just the economics and the technology. You need to understand the philosophy of Bitcoin to understand what the implications are for humanity, society, and civilization long term. And that's what my that's what my book does in a very accessible way. So
in a very crude way, I'm just dissecting the title here. Are you saying that the scarcity is Bitcoin and the abundance is achieved through integrating with Bitcoin in many levels?
Yeah. So when something is provably scarce, that creates the properties to allow that thing to store and transmit value reliably across time and space. And it is a prerequisite for building value. It is a precondition for abundance, because the opposite, when we have a currency abundance, we get economic scarcity because we are diluting value. And for this thesis to make sense, you have to understand what money is. And all forms of money is a ledger. It is a ledger, which is
who owes what to who?
Yes, exactly. It is a collective memory system of past economic events. So I like to look at any ledger as an abacus. The ledger is the actual framework, and then the tokens within the monetary system, those are the beads. And that's essentially what money is. And what money allows us to do is to coordinate the workforce, coordinate our resources. It allows us to store and safeguard the value of our labor in a token that we can move in time and space. It is a technology that lets us cooperate across continents and generations. So people who have never met, will never meet, don't speak the same language, come from vastly different cultures and ideologies, can work on the same project under the same collective hallucination that money is something that works to do this. So that's why money is the engine behind the evolution of culture and technology. And if we have broken money, we're going to have broken societies, broken people. If we have sound money, we will be able to We have no idea how far humanity can go. I suspect we can go a lot farther than we think. I think we're going to become a Kardashev type 3 civilization if we can prove that traversing space is actually possible. That's essentially the only missing piece from our physics.
You better explain what.
I think there's a lot to unpack here. We got a lot of conversation.
Just quickly, type 3 civilization. What is it? What is a Kardashev type?
Okay, so
is it Kardashev?
Yeah, Kardashev.
Kardashev.
Yeah,
type
so
3 civilization.
Nikolai Kardashev, he was a Soviet astrophysicist that in 1964 or 68, I think, came up with the Kardashev scale, which is a cosmologist framework on how to look at a civilization, how technologically advanced they are. So, and he made this a 3-tiered system. A type 1 civilization, it burns plants and animals for energy. A type 0 civilization burns plants and animals for their energy. They take what's immediately in front of them, essentially. A type 1 civilization, that's a civilization that controls the weather, controls the plate tectonics, control their planet's orbit. They have access to every watt of energy that is accessible on their planet.
So we're not even type 1 yet?
Absolutely not.
Oh, right.
Absolutely
That's a
not.
big jump from 0 to 1.
Yes. So a type 1 civilization is vastly more superior than us technologically. We are about 0.6, maybe 0.7. And you would say, okay, that's not a very big leap to a type 1 civilization. But yeah, it's actually a logarithmic scale. So that would mean that we would have to increase our energy output by 10,000 fold to become a type 1 civilization. So not just doubling our energy production and consumption, not triple it, not quadruple it. We have to increase it 10,000 fold to become a Kardashev type 1 civilization.
It's interesting that he invented a scale which goes a long way up. Normally when you would create a scale, you would put human civilization at probably halfway up. He's not. He's putting it right down there, isn't he?
Yeah,
the rest of the scale goes up to here.
He's got a big mind, a big, beautiful mind.
Okay.
A type 2 civilization is a civilization that controls all of the energy accessible in their solar system. So they're a stellar civilization, and the type 3 civilization controls the entire galaxy. So they roam the galactic space lanes. They have colonized several solar systems. So yeah, they control an incredible amount of energy, and it's even
what can you
we
do
can't
with
even
that?
speculate what these type of beings would be.
But what would you do with that much energy?
You would create black holes. You would possibly fight intergalactic wars with things like black hole generators and producing nebulas, and I mean, you would possibly even code different universes.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, without jumping too far into the future, what's the point of it all? No, I mean, this is a very small tangent. I don't intend to go in here for very long, but whenever I have that conversation about the future, I have it a lot these days with kind of transhumanism and that future. The question always is, but why? Like, are you happy in your garden, digging the ground, and are you happy? Yes, are you content? So why do you need to create?
Tim, this is such a fantastic question. I hope you appreciate the depth of this question.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Put it that way.
Yeah. So, I think that where we are right now, I think we are in one of the worst periods of human history. I wouldn't want to live like 50,000 years ago. I wouldn't. I would prefer to live now because I am a coward. I enjoy having modern medicine. I love having security. I love being clean, being able to take a hot shower and, all of these things that we have access to today. But I'm not happier for it. I think we were a lot happier as hunter-gatherers. I think that when we became domesticized by corn and grain and animals, we were not the ones that domesticized them. They domesticized us. And that introduced a lot of illness and unhappiness. And the only reason I think, and you may counter and say like, okay, well, as a hunter-gatherer living in deep connection with nature, cosmos, each other, and self and God, you didn't have, is that worth the cost of not having medicine, being ill and die, losing your children, and having to suffer everything that was essentially what we had in the first medical paradigm, the survival medicine paradigm? Trauma would kill you. Infection would kill you. You break a leg. Okay, you're done for. You would lose your children. You would starve. Your partner would have a child and she would die in the process. Horrible, horrible things. But life is what we make of it. It is all about framing. If you live in connection with nature and God, you have a very different relationship with death and trauma and suffering and pain. In a way that has become, this has actually become a pathology in modern society, our relationship with death, our relationship with disease. It has become the defining factor of how we lead our lives. We are all scared. And we're scared to a degree that we are forgetting what it even means to be human. The only reason that I still find it very valuable being on this technological journey that we are on now is that I believe that we are going to land someplace that is going to be truly beautiful someday in the future. I believe that we're going to build the solar punk society where we can again be connected with God, nature, self, other, and reap the benefits of technology that we've built to complement us rather than exploit us.
I'm gonna push back on that in the sense that, what about the idea that you've just described a kind of utopia that exists? Let's call it heaven. I think many people would say that heaven is here now. I know we're jumping straight in feet first here, but whatever, fuck it. Heaven is here right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If you're not living in heaven, it's not through want of trying, because you have access to it right now.
Yes.
And if you place heaven in a future utopia, you're actually locking yourself out.
Yes, 100%.
Right. So how does that fit in with what you're saying now then?
I don't think that they are mutually exclusive. I think that we can still work towards creating a better world for humanity and building a better society, because the only constant is change. There's never been, when people talk about things being normal, there is no such thing as normal. That has never been a normal. The only possibly normal state of humanity is being a hunter-gatherer, because that's what we were the longest. But now, being the sex organs of technology as we are entering an age where things are changing so much faster because technology is now, for the first time in history, evolving past us in a sense. We are now living in a pivotal time when technology is no longer simply an extension of who we are. The fork is an extension of our hands. Glasses is an extension of our eyes. Headphones, microphones, computer, all extensions of us. But now we have things like AI, and a lot of people are relying more and more on their AIs to make decisions. They are outsourcing their cognition in a way that is not necessarily very healthy. We are losing cognitive autonomy to the robots. We're becoming less inclined to make our own decisions. So we are now an extension of technology rather than the opposite.
Or isn't AI an extension of the brain? You were talking about glasses, extension of the eye.
It is an extension of the brain, but but since we are now making decisions based on what the AI is saying, we are becoming an extension of the technology.
Have you ever read that book, What Technology Wants?
I've seen a YouTube video on it. I haven't read the actual book. Yeah,
you're describing something that he wrote a book around. He called it the technium. The technium was the technium is the technological realm, and it's a life form, and it basically requires us to create it. And so if you track technology, and I'm talking about even sticks and, fashioning sticks into spears.
One of the most important technologies ever.
Part of the technium, right up to computers and lights and all this stuff. This is all the technium. And I can't remember whether he said this in the book or not, because I read it a long time ago. But since then, I think I thought these thoughts myself, but who bloody knows these days? But it became apparent to me that what was actually going on was we, as humans, were creating a replica of our insides on the outside. And for example, the technium is evolved into what we see now. You would call it like the brain of the planet. We're all connected. We're basically creating something that is us in our outside world. And it seems like it really is happening. I mean, people have been speaking about these kind of things for a while. That, Google I thought it would be Google. Google's taking all this data in real time of what everyone's thinking, typing in their searches and creating this kind of this being which understands us way better than we understand ourselves. But that was a very crude version of it when you think about it. And we haven't even got to the point where technology is really embedded in us.
Right.
The transhuman aspect.
Yes.
Right. It is almost certainly, it is ahead of us. There's no question about it. Now, at that point, you've created the myths of most religions, which is that we are all connected and that we are all one and that we are, but we actually are. And this myth has come, we've projected this myth out into the real world with actual real life, touchable, physical things. I mean, like I say, I'm not sure that happens in the book. It's just something that seems really obvious and apparent that is what we're creating. We are creating like God or whatever. Like, I mean, it's a very broad word, God. I don't really know whether
God is a perfectly usable term. I use it for a lot of things.
Yeah, but you don't know what I'm using it for. That's the problem.
Exactly. That's
it's hard to communicate the word.
It is. It is. You have to be specific with what you mean when you use the word God.
Yeah, but we're gonna go all over the place if we're not careful here. Can we go back to? I like the transhuman story because it's an inevitable. And then also you're a doctor, so you probably know a lot more about it than me because you see it happening. Like you say, at the moment, glasses are a form of transhumanism. They're just sitting on your nose. I've actually had my eyes done and I've had, people have plastic lenses put in their eyes. This is a bit more down that route, the things we have put inside us. But the place we're going to is, for me at least, I'm quite in two minds as to whether, it comes back to that question again, but why? Like, sure, if I want to compete with everyone else in this world, I might have to be transhuman. But wait a minute, why am I competing? What am I getting? Yes. Like, what drives my life? Am I happy to just be very simple? And if that's the case, there's no need for me to compete with everyone else to try and achieve X, Y, Z,
Yeah, you have to ask what you as an individual want, what we want as a species, what our genes want, what society wants. You are perfectly right in pushing back on this by asking why. Because we can't think that happiness lies on the other side of an achievement. It doesn't. There is no happiness when you have money. There's no happiness because you get the girl. There's no happiness because you get to travel the world. There's no happiness because you get that apartment that you want. The illusion is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful. it can convince you time and time again, even if you have proven to yourself time and time again, that no, happiness does not exist on the opposite of an achievement, on the other side of an achievement. It just does not. And that's a feature, not a bug. It's a feature, not a bug, because that's what dopamine is evolutionarily designed to do. If you were perfectly content after having eaten a meal and that contentment was lasting, you would never eat again. If you were perfectly content with having sex one time, you were happy. You found peace after you had sex.
Not gonna happen.
And it's gonna last. Then our species would die. Happiness is fleeting, and that's by design. And when I mean design, I don't mean intelligent design. I mean design, as in evolution designed it. It is purposeful, in the sense that it is how our species survives. And the illusion that we're gonna have happiness and peace on the other side of that thing that we want, it is incredibly powerful because we really want to go there. That's what dopamine is.
Do you know what, though? It just made me think that all this modern medicine and longevity stuff, it's all about hacking you, right? And if you understand that about dopamine, that it's just there as a driver to get you to do stuff, you can hack that away, can't you? Really, because you and I know that you could say it's unnecessary, because if you are the kind of person that doesn't really care to push boundaries, do better, do whatever, then you could just hack your life and say, right, it's not going to have an effect on me, or I'm literally going to take a pill to suppress dopamine. I don't know, whatever. You know.
I think the best hack is actually a spiritual one, and that is to realize that heaven is here right now, just as you said. It is to realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are not your body. You are merely the observer. You are the observer that watches the movie that goes on before your eyes. You are the observer of the emotions that comes and goes as waves through your bodies. That's your body talking to you, by the way. Learn the language of the body. Don't just put words on it. Learn the language of the body. That is one thing I encourage everybody to do. And you are the silent observer of your thoughts, emotions, and the life that happens. And you are not your body. What body gives you, I've radically changed my relationship with my body after an ayahuasca experience. So I had an ayahuasca experience. Tim, this is incredible.
Sure it is.
I radically changed my relationship with the body. I'm not even calling it the body anymore, or my body. I'm calling it body. Radically changed my relationship with body after an ayahuasca experience.
How long ago? Just one?
4.
How long ago was that?
December.
Oh, recently?
Yeah.
Was that the first time you've done it?
No, I've done 2 sessions.
Right, but I mean, but the first time that you've had, it's not like you've done ayahuasca for 10 years on and off, and suddenly this big thing happened. No. It was like,
this was the big time. Yes. I have been living with this body for this lifetime now, and I have been in disagreement with it a few times.
In what sense?
I have been mad at it, angry with it, for not being able to perform as I wanted to perform in the gym, for not being taller, for not being younger, for not being more handsome, for not being stronger. And then I got my butt kicked in a ceremony where I might just tell you the story.
Fair enough. I love a good ayahuasca story.
Yes. So
my kids do as well, funny enough. They're really young. Okay. Whenever we ended up the other day talking at the dinner table about DMT, and I pulled out Rick Strassman's book. I've got Rick's, do you know that?
Oh, of course.
The Spirit Molecule.
Yes.
And I said, look, I'm just going to read you some of, because it's full of people's accounts of what happens to them in a trip. And because the interesting thing is they all met different entities and stuff, which is just fascinating, no matter whether they were a doctor or a hippie or a teacher or whatever. Everyone, I think he said it was almost over 90-something% of people came back having met an entity. Yes. And my kids were fascinated by that.
Wow.
And I could already see my eldest daughter is too scared to take psychedelics. Fair enough. I mean, they're 12. I'm not saying they're going to do it now, but I could predict from what I know about my experiences that when she's older, she might be a bit scared. Quite rightly so. I think I'm probably in that point now. I think I'm scared to take psychedelics now. Whereas my middle daughter, her eyes prick up. She wants to know all about that. She's very analytical as well, which doesn't normally help in those scenarios. But she wants to know, but wait a minute. She's like, and I can see when she's older, she's definitely going to dip her toes in that water because she's she's a traveler. She's an explorer. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, I do love a good hallucinogenic story. Don't hold back.
Thank you so much. There are, okay. So your daughter, she sounds like a traveler as opposed to a tourist. At these retreats, there are always some tourists that don't know what they're doing. Where did you do it? I did it in Sweden. I'm not going to disclose the exact location, but it was a picture, a 19th century building, like a 19th century library, just fantastic architecture. And we had this huge fireplace made of stone. I just love the environment so much. Was it
out in the countryside? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, some not very, a lot of nice places.
So we were about 10, 12 people, one shaman and 3 facilitators, and then the group. And we had a theme. We had a theme which was healing through light. And this makes much more sense if you know what the metaphors stand for. So there are 2 paths. You can heal either through darkness or through light. Both are equally valid. Most people will choose the path of darkness, which is and it's perfectly fine.
It sounds like the scary
one. It's fine. It's actually the common one. It's going to therapy, taking your meds, seeing your friends, going to the gym, eating healthy, getting sleep, doing all these things, just holding the line against psychological illness or whatever it is you're struggling with. Just holding the line, doing what you're supposed to do. Takes time, works if you do it right.
Can I ask you before you go on, what was your intention when you went there? You were saying that you had a relationship with your body. Presumably you didn't know that.
No, I had no idea. I came in with the intention to find courage to go on a path of radical self-alignment. That's what I thought I was doing there.
It's radical self-alignment. You better even explain what that means.
Yeah. So that just means choosing a life that is authentic to your deepest values.
Intentional, you would say.
And that is super scary. It is, if you are awake to what it means, it is one of the scariest things you can do. That is about actually breaking generational trauma. It is about leaving generations that have chosen security over a life of excitement and doing something that feels more authentic to you. Authenticity is one of the highest energies at which you can vibrate.
Did you by any chance get into medicine for someone else's reasons? Parents, society,
No, not necessarily. I was nudged, or rather somebody opened my eyes to it. And but I went into it for the wrong reasons. I went into it for status, money, all of these things. But then I discovered that this is actually a pretty cool profession. You get to have real conversations with people. Conversations, from the get-go, you get to have real conversations with people. And that's an incredible privilege. You get to talk about things that really matter to people. You get to connect with people for real, and you get to help them. And when you see the value in that, that's what makes the whole profession. And so I see a lot of colleagues, especially younger ones, who treat patients like they're just something in their calendar that they need to get out of the way. I had to, I was there as well. Everybody is at some point, but I had to radically shift my relationship to my patients. So now whenever I have someone in front of me, I see my 10-year-old self, or I see my sister, or I see my brother, I see my mother, and they're ailing. And I love them for being a fellow human being. And I connect with them because this is my 10-year-old self. How would I treat my 10-year-old self? And I do my best to connect with them at a deep level.
Is this on account of the ayahuasca, or was that happening before?
No, this is something I've learned through the profession over time to actually make it worthwhile to survive, essentially. So that just developed organically over time. But I wasn't going into the ayahuasca ceremony because I was on a path of radical self-alignment. I still am, and it's still scary. What that means for me is that I believe that my primary archetype is not necessarily to be a healer, not to be a medicine man, but it is to be a philosopher, which means I believe that I can do more benefit for the world through writing and arranging retreats and stuff like this. But to do that, I have to break something that's been hard-coded into me through generations, which is to choose a life of comfort and security. And this is the job of your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind does not want you to achieve. It doesn't want you to explore. It doesn't want you to succeed. It wants you to stay where you are, because it recognizes that this place where you are now, even if you have anxiety, even if you're depressed, it wants you to stay here because right now we are alive, and that's the only thing that counts.
Is that, though, your subconscious or everyone's subconscious? As I've never thought,
yes.
I've always felt my own subconscious is quite positive and actually not like that.
I mean, we all have different algorithms. We're all governed by different algorithms, and we inherit most of them. So yeah, there's certainly an aspect where we can say that our subconscious that tries to put us in place is something that comes from everybody, and it's certainly a trait of our species, that we want to stay put where we are because this is where we survive, and you have to overcome that. And that has, I know at least in my family, has been hard-coded to stay in place and don't succeed. Because survival. And I've also inherited defective monetary scripts. Like I have the idea that there can never be enough money.
A lot of people have that one.
Yeah, it's a common one. It's the most common defective monetary script, but it's still a defective one. So yeah, radical self-alignment. I thought I was going in with this, but this was not the case. And I got to learn that throughout the ceremony. So this was a 4-day retreat, where we do a lot of exercises, where we try to heal through light rather than darkness. And darkness, that was this, the common path. Lightness is essentially just being, or just jumping into a pool of love, essentially letting God's love wash over you, and you heal like that, just instantly. It's like shining a light on a shadow. The shadow just goes away immediately.
But wait on a minute. You thought this was going to happen before the experience, or that's what happened?
No, that's I had no idea what we were doing in the.
They said that this is the path we're going down.
No, they showed us. They didn't tell us. They told us that afterward. That's what we did. We got to experience it first.
Oh right, you did.
Yeah, so we did a lot of.
Is that a good description of it?
Yes, it was a terrific. Yeah.
No, but I mean that kind of.
Yes, it happened like that.
Really?
Yeah, it happened like that. And it happened like that several times. That's the power of it as well. So we did a lot of exercises, and we used medicine to facilitate the exercises. Like we used peyote, for example, so there are 4 classic psychedelics. There's LSD, DMT, psilocybin, and mescaline. And what makes them the classic psychedelics is that they're all agonists on the 5-HT2A receptor, a subgroup of the serotonin receptor. So they have a mechanism of action in common. But what happens after they bind to the receptor, agonist being that they bind to the receptor and they activate it. what happens after that is just a biological cascade, and we have no idea what happens. It's magic, for all we know. And they do it very differently because the effects of these medicines are very, very different. So we used peyote for a few exercises. This is mescaline, the cactus. By the way, one of the hardest medicines to consume I've ever encountered. It really does not want to be digested.
It makes you want to throw up.
It goes into your mouth, right? And it grows, and whenever it approaches your esophagus, it just crawls out again. Yeah. It does not want to go down your belly. So that was fun.
That may be an evolutionary adaptation to only people who really want to take it should take it. Possibly.
Something like that. And it has a very masculine energy, this one, peyote mescaline. It is very guiding. It holds you and it guides you. So that was good for a few exercises. And then we did...
How long does peyote last when you take it?
Very, very long. It's an entire night. Mm. Yeah. So, and then we did... I think it was on the third day. So when you do ayahuasca, you do it several days in a row, because ayahuasca is a brew made of Capybanasteriops, which is a vine, and then the Psychotria viridis, which is the leaf, chacruna it's also called. And you mix these two. So you get a DMT component and a MAOI, a monoamino oxidase inhibitor. And the MAO enzyme, it breaks down the DMT. So you need the inhibitor, and you build up the concentration of that inhibitor so you don't break down the DMT. And DMT, there's no tolerance, and you just build up the levels over the days. So you're working up to something, so you just have to trust the process. And I think it was on the third day where I had one of the strangest experiences of my life. There was 4 of us. We were going to do Bufo.
What's that?
Bufo Alvarius is the Sonoran desert toad.
Oh, you have to lick the back. That one.
If you're Homer Simpson, you might do that.
Right.
In real life, what you do is that you scrape it off, you crystallize it, put it in a pipe, and so this is the strongest psychedelic known to science.
Really?
Yes.
Stronger than DMT, then?
Much, much, much stronger.
Really?
Yeah.
It's possible?
So it is. Exactly. Is it even possible? So it is the DMT molecule. It's called 5-MeO-DMT. What that means is that you take the DMT molecule and you add a methyl group on carbon number 5. So for anybody who knows any bit of organic chemistry, you have a benzene ring in the DMT molecule, and on carbon number 5 you add a methyl group CH3, and that makes it much more fat soluble. Which means it goes through the blood-brain barrier and binds to the receptor. The brain is fat soluble much faster.
And does it last like only a few minutes like DMT?
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, because the experience could be years.
Yeah, it's forever. Time disappears. Yeah. So, but in our time, about 15 minutes or so. But that doesn't matter. So a good analogy between what ayahuasca and Bufo is that, like, in ayahuasca, you drink the brew, and on the final night, when you're reaching the highest concentrations, you go towards a cliff and you peer into the abyss of your subconscious mind. You peer into it, you peek over the cliff, and then you back off. That's what ayahuasca lets you do. Bufo
chucks you over.
It kicks you in the back when you're on the edge, and you have no say in it.
DMT's a bit like that, right?
Yeah, and there's just no, you can't, you can't resist. There's just no way of resisting. So, what you do is you take this pipe and they help you. So you have the meditation round, you have some lectures before, you do some exercises so you get into, the right set. You have the set and setting. And this is one of the most important lessons from the 60s, dose, set, and setting, to prevent challenging trips. You need to have the proper setting. You need to be in a comfortable place with the right people and have the right lights and be comfortable in your body. Then you have to have the right set, the right mindset, and the right intention going in. You have to know why you're doing this. And then you have to have the right dose and the right administration form. And that is smoking. And I mean, I trust them with the dose, of course. So what you do is they come up to you. You do one person at a time, essentially. Or rather, you start one person at a time. So they come up to you with the glass pipe. They light it with like a blowtorch. And they hold it to your lips. And then they tell you to inhale. And you inhale for 13 seconds. After 3 seconds, it's the most intense psychedelic experience you've ever had. After about 7 seconds, you're in an entirely different dimension. And then you still have another 6 seconds to go, if you can even do it. And they help you.
What? Holding it in?
They like encourage you. They tell you to keep breathing. You still like perceive what they're saying. Okay. And they tell you to keep inhaling, just keeping you in that flow of inhaling. And then they help you lie down. So, when it comes on very quickly. So I lie down and I just feel the world disappearing. I can no longer see anything. I close my eyes and there's just an explosion in my vision. And I feel that I'm diving at the speed of light through fractals. And this is the transportation. And what can happen with ayahuasca is that you end up in what's called the waiting room, where you get like stuck between this world and the next. And that can be a very uncomfortable experience. There's none of that with Bufo. You just go straight. You catapult your soul into the center of the universe or something like this. And, yeah, so I'm lying there and I'm feeling my body dissolve. My body's just evaporating. It just goes away and I can't move anymore. And I feel like, and then my memories start fading and I don't remember my name. I can still think. I can still use language and I can think coherently, which is kind of weird to me. I'm lying there and like, I'm having thoughts, but I don't have a body. I don't have vision anymore. I don't really know who I am or what I am. I used to be like something, I remembered that I thought that I used to be a human being, but I'm not really sure what that is anymore. So it was a complete dissociation from everything known. And I was just in this state of just awareness, essentially. And it was quite terrifying. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. And I was utterly convinced I was dying at one point. I was dying. I was convinced of it. I knew I was dying. I felt I was dying. And I said to myself, okay, I don't even know what I took there. This might have all been a suicide cult for all I know. So fine. I'm just going to relax. Yeah. I don't want to have panic when
Have you got a family?
I do have a family.
You do?
Well,
Did
I don't
know where you were?
Yes, they do. I don't have kids on my own, but
right,
I have brothers and sisters. And
you don't have your own kids?
I don't have my own kids.
Okay, lucky. There would be tension inside you at that point.
Yes. But I just thought that, okay, so I'm dying. I've had a good life. If this is the end, so be it. I'm not going to have a panic. I want a beautiful death. I'm just going to follow. I'm just going to relax into this. There's nothing I can do anyway. So I made my peace with death at that very moment, at the moment of death. And then I died. And that was it. It was just nothingness and everything at once. It was just no time and all time at the same time. And then I was in something else that I don't have the language for it. I don't even know what to say. I don't know how to describe it. I can't describe it visually because there wasn't really anything visually. I can't describe a sensation because there weren't really any sensations. I can't describe an emotion. I can't really describe a state of mind either because everything was independent. Everything that went on in that place was independent of time, place, and body. And I think that was source. I think that is where we all come from and where we're going back to. And I don't care if that's true or not, really. It doesn't change how I live my life. And I know that there is no scientific instrument to peer beyond the veil of reality that would get us closer to what that thing is. But it keeps my life. I like to have that framework that we are sort of, like gun to my head, I don't believe this. I'm trained differently. I am a human being here. But I do entertain the idea that we are spirits that have come here. I don't know if it's by our own volition or if we're just something that happens in like the evolution of the spirit world. It's just we go here sometimes to learn lessons or whatever, or if this is an experiment, or I don't know what this is. But I'm fairly certain that I am you and you are me. We are all the exact same. We are waves of the same ocean. We are probabilistic creatures that have spontaneously come about in a very slow process that works on a time scale that is vastly different from the fluctuations of the quantum field that lets particles arise and disappear out of the universe. We have sort of spontaneously come about in this field of reality in much the same way that particles arise spontaneously out of the quantum field, but on a much, much longer time scale. To us, it's all relative. So yeah, that was my Bufo experience. That did not change my relationship with body. Body was a different experience.
I was going to say that would. I hear what you're saying about you know, you don't even know whether it's real or not. I've had a lot of experiences. I've had a lot of experiences with hallucinogens and psychedelics, but I've also had a lot of experiences with. I lived in Indonesia for nearly 2 years with a teacher who taught meditation, and I had more weirder and wacky experiences there than I did with psychedelics, because they're more obvious with psychedelics that right. They don't seem as real almost, and they're also. I didn't do them in those kind of scenarios as much. When you do, if you work with a teacher, a spiritual teacher, you're very much in the zone of, okay, this is something I'm doing. It's not like you're taking some acid or doing this or the other, you have a different experience. And I can understand, because I haven't done anything like that for a number of years now. And when I look back, it could all have been neurons firing off in my brain for all I know. I don't really know. In retrospect, it could seem like it. But well, I've got no way of proving or disproving it. Right. What I do know is, though, for example, I've had a death experience. I've died. I've actually died without any drugs or anything. I died lying on my bed at home once. And it was... I'm pretty sure I've told this experience once on this podcast before, but long and short of it was I was ill when I was younger, not that young. I was in my 20s, and I didn't even really have a bad illness. I was very hot, and obviously I was hallucinating quite a bit, and I was just lying on bed on my own, and I started to, as you described, I just started to die, and I knew I was dying. I just knew it. It wasn't something that there wasn't anything to point at. It was just, oh, this is familiar. This is me dying. And as I started dying, it was very natural. And I just went with it, lying on my bed. And then at one point, my mind kicked in and said, you can't die. Your mother is downstairs. She's going to walk into her bedroom and find a dead son on the bed. This is ridiculous. And it kind of snapped me out of it. But in the meantime, I'd already had the experience, and the experience taught me that death wasn't anything, number one, to be scared of. Death was actually the same as birth. Right. There was no difference between them. It was a movement. It's a movement. Right. Okay. It's the next chapter. Right. But a death from this life is a birth is at the same time it's a birth into something else. So they're the same thing.
Yeah.
And that I have carried with me. That's always been around. Ever since I've been much more content with the idea that one day I may need to leave my children, for example, on this planet on their own without me. And that's cool. Because death is, this is a process. But as far as all the other stuff, I've had a lot of crazy, weird meeting beings and all this kind of stuff without hallucinogens. That stuff, when I look back, would be very easy to say, yeah, it's not really real. You wanted to experience that. You wanted to know that so you had a good story to tell or something. So, and in a way, it wasn't as profound on my life, other than the one thing which really taught me that death is a very normal process, right, that's very familiar and that's absolutely fine.
So you see the pathology of modern society, our relationship to death is a pathology.
Well, we're trying to put it off continuously, for sure. Yes.
Tim, are you afraid of death?
I don't think so, but you'd have to put me in front of death. I'm almost certain that if I was at the face of death, I'd have had absolutely no problem at all.
Right.
What I might be afraid of is pain,
right,
and leaving my children, which are, when you have children, you realise that there would be nothing more emotionally painful than having to say goodbye to your own children. Really, I can't put any more gravitas on any pain, emotional pain. Either them dying or you dying. But in a way, you dying is even worse, especially when they're young. As they get older, it might be different. But when they're young, there is no higher, in my estimation, there's no higher duty in my life than providing and protecting and guiding them. So leaving them would be horrendous. And I would know that they would hate that as well. Like when you're older, you can think about death, and when you're like, there's no kid in the history of the world at 12 whose father died said, oh, well, he had a good life. They're not. They just want their dad back. And knowing that is excruciating pain if you're grown up. But then when your mother dies at age 85 or whatever, you're like, she had a brilliant life. I can't fault her. It's sad that she's gone, but she had an amazing life, stuff like that. So I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of of some experiences around it, I think, because my wife currently, she spent a bit of time as a nurse for a while. Currently she's not, but back in her history, for a few years, she was a nurse, and she was the one that brought to my attention that most people die in pain. Most people, actually, when you look at the grand scheme of things, if you die peacefully in your bed, you're kind of like, you're lucky. And I'd never thought of that before. I'd always imagined that my passing will be a monumental experience of goodbye, everyone. It's been nice knowing you.
It can be.
Yeah, it can be, but
you can orchestrate that. Yeah, it can be.
I think you can even take hallucinogens to try and do it.
Absolutely. So, the question about if you're afraid of death, that's actually several questions, and you nail it, because it's about the process of dying, which I think can be associated with a lot of pain and anxiety. Then there's the moment of death where we actually face death, and I think that's a beautiful moment. And then there's the FOMO of missing. Saying goodbye to body, saying goodbye to family, saying goodbye to human life, to the human experience. We have, as a primary care physician, I do a lot of palliative care as well. So I see quite a lot of deaths. And just before this conference, I had a guy born in 92, so a young guy with a brain tumor. And it's just a horrible, tragic story. Had a big family. And we have very good technology to deal with pain, with the constipation, with the retention of fluids, with breathing, and even anxiety. But we don't use technology for the existential crisis or questions. What does it mean to leave body? What does it mean to leave the human experience? We have the technology, and it's called psilocybin, but we're not using it right now. But we are about to. That's part of the third paradigm of medicine, introducing these ancient medicines. Going back to that is gonna radically transform palliative care.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah. As a doctor, and I think you're probably going to know the answer to this. This is just one of those things I've known for a long time, but I don't think I've ever checked to see whether it's true or not. Maybe you would know. Is it true that when you die, your body is flooded with DMT naturally from your own brain or whatever, your glands?
Yeah. Yes. It's flooded would maybe paint the wrong picture. But yes, you will have a fairly large dose of DMT from your lungs and brains.
Same as when you're born as well, is it? Or is it?
Yeah, there are, it comes when you're born and when you die.
Because that makes, I mean, without sounding too crass, that seems completely obvious that is how, that's the vehicle that carries you from one place to the other. I mean,
it's a circular composition.
I mean, it doesn't, but that seems too obvious.
Well, it's also...
Like, can it really be that there's this drug that you can take in real life, you can smoke it, and it projects you off to another dimension. And then that same drug created in your own body twice, when you're born and when you die, which is the time when you travel from here to there or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's almost poetic.
It's not even poetic. It's too obvious. It should be more esoteric than that, shouldn't it? Really? Isn't death mysterious and stuff? It's like, no, there's this drug and you inject it and it takes you to the next place that you need to go. It's like getting on a bus.
We don't know the purpose of it, like physiologically, why that is. We can of course argue that there are spiritual reasons for this happening, but why we know that the birth is also associated with the highest level of adrenaline that you'll experience in your entire life.
Never, the mother or the baby?
The baby.
Is that right?
Yeah, you'll never have more adrenaline in your body than when you're being born.
I wonder. I've watched all my kids come out, and they do look pretty mental. And they come out, they're like, "Oh my god, what the hell's going on?" It was really nice.
You're coming into the world.
Yeah, it's not a nice. They don't come in with a big smile on their face. Put it that way.
Not.
And if they do, they get a smack immediately from the nurse.
Exactly. Scream and cry. Yeah. So, but can I tell you about the ayahuasca experience?
Yeah. I thought that was it. But so you did peyote, then Bufo.
Yes.
And now you're moving on to ayahuasca, which is
we do ayahuasca every day.
You did that as well.
You do ayahuasca every day.
They really wanted to fry your mind, didn't they? At that particular point, there's no holding back.
You are preparing body mind for the real experience. You're working up to stuff.
So they would consider that the ayahuasca is the big one, because I would have thought
it's not really about the medicine. It's about the experiences you create with the medicine. I also did Yopo, I think it's called, which is you have like a long pipe that they put to your nostril. We have a high dose of exactly.
Blows it,
they blow into your they essentially blow hell into your brain, and everything goes on fire, and then you're just relaxed. There's DMT in that, and there's tobacco and probably a few other things for a good measure. And what that did was it sort of like downloaded the language of ayahuasca, so I knew what I was looking for in the actual experience later.
So when people do ayahuasca straight to ayahuasca, do you think that they're missing a trick?
Not necessarily. It depends on the dose. If you work with lower doses, you are going to be the one who has to do the work. But you might need to understand the language of ayahuasca to actually tap into the experience.
What is the language of ayahuasca?
Exactly. Who knows?
Can you try?
What I mean by that is, it's like with any like we call it drugs. That's very offensive to a shaman or curandero, because these things, like peyote it's holy. Like aspirin is a drug. Peyote is sacred. So when you use these medicines, or when you use, weed, for example, when it's the first time, you might not know what the experience is supposed to be. So you don't really know what to even look for. So if you have a fairly small dose, but clearly effective, even to somebody who has tolerance, you might be so oblivious to the experience because you don't have the language of what the experience is. But once you have had it a few times, you know exactly what to expect and you go there immediately.
It must be quite subtle at that point, though. I mean, all hallucinogens I've ever taken, it was indisputable that something was happening.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And if you add on top of that, like the language of the experience, you know what to look for. You know what you're going into. You know the space you're entering. That sort of aids you through it helps you through the process, so you don't have to discover it. It's kind of like you're taking a math test. Are you going to try to figure out all the equations before you write the test, or are you going to know them beforehand? It just helps you with the experience. So on my final, this was on my final night, the fourth night.
You must have been absolutely wrecked
I had no sleep for a week.
Just imagining it. Like, what were these 4 people? How many was it? 4 of you? Just walking around like zombies around this house.
We were 12 people doing the retreat. We were 4 people doing the Bufo. And then there were...
so some of them didn't do the full...
No, not everybody did. There were a few things that I didn't do as well.
Oh, really? There was more?
Yeah, there were more.
How many more hallucinogenic drugs exist?
There was this... I keep forgetting what it's called. It's this like chemical burn you do on your shoulder. It leaves a scar. And you just...
I've in Africa once, but it wasn't for that purpose. I had my skin burnt with a plant, but it was for a tattoo. The tattoo lasted about 6 months or whatever.
Okay.
But it didn't give me a.
This gives you 3 dots. And no. It's gonna stay with you. And
the dots or the experience?
The dots, probably the experience as well.
Oh, so you get a full-on experience with it?
You get a full-on experience. It's very somatic. It's very bodily. You throw up a lot. You start shaking. You start crying. You start screaming.
Datura? No. What's it called?
I can't remember what it's called. Whatever. So yeah, on the 4th night, we had the fire going. We had the facilitators playing rhythmic instruments and music. It was just a beautiful experience, and I had just a very different energy coming into that experience than I had from the other ones. I felt intensely present, and just talking about this right now makes me enter that space. I feel very present with you now, Tim. It's almost like a light psychedelic experience I'm having right now. And it's a wonderful sensation.
These lights don't help.
But I mean, just off the record, thank you for this experience. I'm having such a wonderful time connecting with another human being, a great awake human being. This means a lot to me, and I love you for it. This is a beautiful moment. I'm very appreciative of what you are creating right here. Yeah. So that ayahuasca experience on the 4th night, I'm closest to the fire, and I'm just relying on it for rhythm, and I'm listening to their rhythm, and then this woman comes up to me. It's my turn. And she offers me the cup, and I drink. And we're doing double the dose on the 4th night, or I'm doing the double the dose. And I lie down, and it takes some time to come on. But you're still lingering from all the other stuff you've been doing. It still lingers in your system. So I lie down. I put on my eye mask. And just lie in the darkness, and it just feels so expansive. Expansive is the best word I can find for it. It feels like you're not really in your body. There's no pain anywhere. Your body's just with you somehow. But it's not like governing the experience as it tends to do in our day-to-day life. And here, you feel like you're in this cosmos, and you just have pulses through it, which is I felt like my skin was the edges of the universe, and there was an entire universe inside of me. And then I had everything outside of me, a completely different universe that was poking into mine, and they were interacting. And I was just looking at this with the vertigo, feeling just the immensity of space and time. And then my body dissolved, and my body is this membrane between two infinities. You have an infinity going inwards. Mm-hmm. There's an infinity out in space.
I know that.
Space just goes on forever. We don't know what happens. It just seems to go on forever. For all we know, space is eternal. It's infinite in space. Something the human mind can't comprehend. It can just be baffled by it. There's an equally big infinity inwards. And your body stands in the center of that as a membrane. And that's a scary place to be, separating these two infinities. And so when when that membrane starts to dissolve and these two infinities merge, that's like jumping out of a cliff or something. But I at this point I was in the presence of the spirit of ayahuasca, a very feminine energy. You can almost call it like a woman. And it's just pure love. And you feel safe. You feel taken care of. So, when I'm in her presence, I ask her, what are we doing today? And she says, nothing. I was like, oh, okay. Do I have anything more to purge? Because purging in ayahuasca, for those who don't know, it's a very important part of the actual ceremony where you vomit. Mm-hmm. It's an anchor to the physical world and to body, where you anchor the sensation of cleansing your body, your mind, your soul, and you anchor that cleansing part by getting rid of something from your body. It's not that the actual just puking cleans your body. It doesn't in that case. You're not carrying poisons within your gastrointestinal tract. That's not what's happening. But what's happening is that you're anchoring a spiritual experience of cleansing with a physical one. So it's just an anchor. And it's an important one. But she said, no, you don't need, there's nothing to purge now. Okay, so what are we working on? And she said, nothing. You've done enough. What you need to do is you don't need to do anything. We can just be here and relax and appreciate what we have, the time we have together. And that's when the tears started coming, because I realized that this is, I'm not going to see her for a while. And for a lack of a better word, she's a god, and she's my best friend. And she's everything I've missed in life. She's the love I never had. She's the lack of pain in my chest. She is, the comfort I never thought I could have. And she's about to go. So we're floating together in eternity and infinity. And then she starts fading. And I realized that I'm coming back to a life that I don't even know what it is anymore. And about body in this experience, when we talked about purging and so on, that's when she showed me that there's no reason to punish body. That is not going to make anything better. In fact, body gives you the human experience. It gives you the human experience. There's no greater gift you can possibly receive. And body gives me the human experience. And I've been mad at it for not being taller. What the shit is that? That's insane. Body gives me the human experience, and I'm angry with it for not being able to lift heavier in the gym. Why? It makes no sense. So after that, I have incorporated not just like a routine, but more like a relationship with body changed my relationship with body, where I talk to body, where I take care of it, where I caress it, and I listen to it first. First of all, I'm trying to learn the language of body much deeper than I ever have before. So what we modern human beings do, we live in our heads. We think. But body doesn't talk with thoughts. It talks with emotions. And body speaks much slower than cognition. So there's the interface we have between head and body is not optimal because we have ruined it as modern human beings, because we have moved into our heads and away from body. So I try to spend as much time in body as possible and just see the emotions. What we do today is that we put words on the emotions to intellectualize them. And that helps in a way, because you can sort of increase the panorama or the spectrum of emotions that you understand cognitively, intellectually. And life is not about just having great experiences and good feelings. A rich life is one that has a breadth and depth. You want as many emotions and experiences as possible, and you want to have them as deeply as possible. Panic attacks and anxiety fucking sucks. And I've had my fair share of it. But I'm grateful for it because there are lessons in it, and they have made my life richer. I don't want a monoculture of just happiness and joy or love or peace. I want an entire spectrum. And I love the entire spectrum of the human experience after I changed my relationship with body, because it's all about the body conversing with you. It's all about messages. So I invite every emotion in, I sit with it, I listen to it, and I respond to it in the way that I feel that my soul and body deserves and needs. I'm not intellectualizing it anymore, and I'm not punishing it. I'm staying with it. So whenever body feels panic or anxiety, I tell my body emotionally and intellectually and with my voice, I'm with you. I'm staying with you. I'm not going to flee into my head like I always had. I'm not going to bury myself in productivity or work. I'm with you. We take the time that we need. We are safe, and I'm going to show it to you. Here, have some calories. Let's move. I know you like that. Let's do this on your terms. I'm with you. We are healing together. We're just thawing the traumas that we have stored in our nervous system. And having this relationship with body has just radically transformed who I am as a human being, how I do life. It makes me a man that is comfortable in his own skin. It has made me into a person who knows where he's going with clarity and has fun going there. Instead of being a person that is anxious for not achieving the goals he thought would make him happy. That is just an illusion anyway.
It's interesting because something I spoke about earlier, which was my experiences in Indonesia when I used to live there. I lived with for want of a better word, a Buddhist teacher, and we meditated every day for like over a year and a half. And I can recount the same experiences as you, even what you called the ayahuasca. In Java, she's called Nyai Loro Kidul, and she's the queen of the South Seas. And I said farewell to her one night with tears streaming down my face. And for 1.5 years, he taught me to be in my body. That was the whole point of the whole thing. We meditated, we'd let go of everything really. And the way you did that was through your body. And my biggest takeaway from that whole period of my life, which I still do now, is whenever I actually remember, because often the modern world keeps you locked in here so much. But whenever I remember or whenever it just comes naturally, all I have to do is feel my body and I'm cool. Everything's cool. I'm relaxed. It's the part of the relaxation process. But I find it very interesting that you mentioned it like that, because it's all the same stuff. This is the opposite side of the world. This is Southeast Asia.
Yes.
This was in the 1990s.
It's ancient knowledge.
For sure. Yeah. But even the fact that there was a lady, and when she said goodbye, I had that experience when I was leaving after a year and a half, and I knew that I wasn't going to meet her again. And the way that the teacher I was with, he'd read a lot of sort of Western literature and stuff, and the way he described this place, which is so perfect, was the Midsummer Night's Dream. Do you know the Midsummer Night's Dream?
I do not.
The book, the Shakespeare book.
Oh, the Shakespeare book. Okay.
If you can imagine this scenario of the Midsummer Night's Dream, this place, which is very magical, the deepest part of summer, the most carefree point.
It's very Shakespearean.
Right. It was kind of he said when he read about this place, he used to think of, like in what you were describing as your body being the border of two infinities. In the Javanese tradition, the South Seas are the seas to the south of Java, and the queen of the South Seas is this lady Nyai Lorukidul. And the town in which I lived, which is called Surakarta, the king of Surakarta, this is ancient Javanese spiritual tradition. He, for one, either week or month each year, he used to disappear from the real world and go and live with Nyai Lorukidul in the South Sea. That was part of his duty as the physical king of Surakarta, Central Java. And, at the time I remember thinking all this stuff. It's like, well, I learned about it from a book first. But then when I experienced it, I suddenly understood a shitload of stuff about what can propel people through life on a day-to-day basis in this kind of mythological realm, which I know what the ayahuasca experience is probably. I think there's a difference between not using drugs and using drugs. I think in the drug experience, the mythology is less important, because I think in the spiritual version, you use the mythology to help you travel to these places. In the drug side, you just smoke the DMT and you're projected like a cannonball into this world or stuff. But that it was very interesting to just make that connection there, because it made me. I always thought that experience was very localized down there, but the way you've just described it and all the things that you learned were all about exactly the same thing. And I've spoken to a lot of people before about even meditation, and there's different forms of the way that people choose to meditate and things like that. But this was so obviously about bringing yourself back into the body. And this is the practice of our age, really, because all the problems reside in our body and not in here. And we're trying to analyze them from here and trying to work with it. But actually, the issues that most people have reside in their body. And the only way to address them is to, for want of a better word, make friends with them, which would mean feeling those things. And even a physical ailment, literally a stiff neck or a this or that. But on the whole, for most people, it's some form of emotional experience held in their body that they absolutely do not want to feel. And they will do anything to not feel it. The trick is when you realize what's going on, all you have to do is feel it. Because when you feel it, you allow it to move.
Yes.
And everything changes. Yes. And it's really quite simple. And we live in an age of this pandemic of people living up here.
Yes. And
as a result, you've got all this drama happening in bodies and in subconsciousness and all this kind of stuff.
I think a lot of people today I think there are quite a few people today who are ready to wake up and break the generational trauma that has been stored in their bodies. But we need courageous people to feel that pain. Pain will not go away until it's felt.
Correct. Yeah, that's been my 30 years of life experience from when I've been old enough to get. But it's a life hack once you understand it. It's a very simple life hack. And the most important part of it is understanding that everything passes.
Everything passes.
Yeah, and then it's not such a big deal anyway, but you do have to feel it.
Yes.
And feeling it is it.
Yeah.
If you had some very serious childhood trauma, those feelings are as real then as they will be now.
Yes.
But in order for them to leave, to move and to leave your, I suppose, not even, it's almost like maybe not even move. It's more about accept.
Well, there is movement in the flow of different energies throughout your body. It's a perfect metaphor. It doesn't vibe with how we understand physiology, but it vibe with how we how we look at the body spiritually. And both perspectives are equally valid. They're just not very compatible all the time. Same with relativity and quantum mechanics. Both describe the universe quite well. They're still not compatible because we don't understand everything about it. We don't understand how spirituality and physiology unify yet. We might someday.
Have you spoken to Tour de Mister, by the way? Because he's been through a similar journey. He did it with Ibogaine.
Yeah.
But he had some feelings that he could not get to the bottom of. And they were literally, I remember I called that episode when we spoke something like letting go of your shackles, which was basically exactly what it was. It was like most people in the modern world now, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people have all this stuff going on inside their body, which they are disconnected from, but which is driving them down a particular timeline.
Yes.
And they don't know it. All they know is they just don't want to go there because it's so painful. And as a result, there's a lot of chaos in the world, and these things drive you to quite chaotic experiences.
And it's going to stay in your body, and you're going to look away from it instead of dealing with it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing we're doing with the fiat system. Nobody wants to take care of it because it's going to be so painful. But I think it's upon these generations that we have now, like millennials and Gen Z and Alpha and so on, to feel a lot of that pain and hopefully break a lot of patterns. That is my hope. I haven't spoken to Tour de Mister yet. It's on my agenda.
At least listen to, he's done a few, I think he spoke to Peter McCormack about it. I think that's possibly why I originally heard about it.
Episode,
But me and him, we had a pretty chaotic conversation because, a bit like when we started this conversation, sometimes you never know where to jump into this world. And when you do, it's all over the place because you're looking for a thread. You're looking for the correct thread. This is the stable one that I can actually now climb up, and I only spoke with him for an hour or so, but he had a very specific thing in mind when he took Ibogaine. And, Ibogaine is it's like the arsehole of all drugs. It doesn't like you. And when you hear his experience, it's the one that people that take those kind of drugs say, don't do it. You're going to have a bad trip. You're going to have a bad time. And therefore he did. He had a 24 hours of hell where he thought that he was being, controlled by aliens and stuff or whatever. But the point was he did it twice. And by the second time he had pinpointed the feeling and he had found it and he realized what it was. And that's all that whole experience was about, was putting you back in touch with your body, which is what people do. I know this from, I climb mountains, especially when I was younger. I used to do it a lot. When you study the kind of people that solo up ridiculous mountain tops, you realize they're doing it to access emotions. There's but it has to be such a it's so difficult for them to get to that place in their body. They have to do these incredible tasks and journeys to be in this position where they can actually access this stuff. And some people use drugs and some people use just life or whatever, but really they're all about accessing things in your body, I think, at least.
And also, we go to these places to remove blockages so that these feelings can start moving again.
Yes.
Because they tend to, you feel it. A lot of people who have like people who've been censored, quieted, beaten, they can have a blockage in their throat. People who have been betrayed or abandoned can feel it in their heart. And, you know, when we move through life, when we just walk down the street, we're going to pass signs, we're going to pass stores, we're going to pass people, and we'll let that information just flow through us. But some things get stuck in us as a memory, as an emotion, as a feeling, as something that feels like it's tight in your chest or tight in your belly, tight in your throat. And to get that energy moving again, you might sometime need a medicine or an experience. And I found that ayahuasca did that for me. It removed the stone that I had carried in my chest for many years. And now my chest is free. I can breathe again.
And what about your practice back home? How are they taking this, or are you not bothered? You're obviously trying to find a way to implement this in your current life, your mainstream life, let's call it.
Yeah. I don't censor myself. I talk very openly about what I think. I just don't care. I can't be bothered to care about what other people think. If you vibe with what I say, awesome. We are the same tribe. If not, I don't care. If my employer doesn't think what I'm doing is wise or has opinions about it, I don't care.
But what about actually as a practicing doctor? It would be very difficult for me as a doctor to not incorporate all this stuff immediately in my practice. Right. And the first person that I saw come in, I'd be like, if you just tried lying down and relaxing and feeling your body, just do it 5 minutes a day, see what happens.
I do implement some things when I meet certain categories of patients. I changed how I treat depression, PTSD, anxiety, chronic pain, for example. These types of conditions, the people that often feel let down by traditional health, the traditional healthcare system. I approach them differently now. And I also work for another clinic, a cannabis clinic, where we deal mostly with chronic pain. And my hope is that we can introduce psilocybin to the clinic as well eventually. And then I also have a thing on the side where I am a Bitcoin doctor for Bitcoiners. Because we're essentially a cult, and we are kind of like the Jewish people. Bitcoiners want a Bitcoin doctor same way a Jewish person wants a Jewish doctor. So I'm providing that service.
Do we want our own homeland, though? That's the question. Probably. We want a citadel, don't we? But I don't think we all want to live in the same homeland, though.
No, we're too disagreeable for that.
A decentralized homeland. But you're right. If I know someone's a Bitcoiner, I want to work with them. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's mainly because I know that they understand a bunch of things.
We have done the same journey.
Yes.
We know that we're awake to the same things mostly, and that translates also to how we look at health and life in a lot of ways. So it makes sense that a Bitcoiner would want a Bitcoin doctor. So I do online consultations for Bitcoiners.
Normal stuff, like kind of, I've got a problem with my leg, I can call Ioni.
For smaller stuff as well. But most of the time it's things, again, where people feel let down by the traditional healthcare system, and things where I can actually provide some help, whether it's panic attacks, anxiety, depression, PTSD, even stuff like chronic pain.
Tell me then, using psilocybin to deal with that kind of stuff, are you using the psilocybin to sort of loosen yourself up a little bit, just to detach from being too judgmental of the stuff so that you can actually look at it and start dealing with it? I'm not talking about physical ailments. I'm talking about the sort of, because, when I think of, say, panic attacks, I would imagine that psilocybin and panic attacks aren't the most obvious friends, because I know that the only time I've ever felt anything remotely like a panic attack was when I had a bad trip on mushrooms when I was younger, for example. And I know what that can do. I know that those kind of drugs, what they do is which we were saying earlier, it's very important what you take into that, your intention before you go in. What did you say? The 3 things you need: a nice place,
dose, set, and setting.
Right. Yeah. Your intention in going in is tantamount, because it's almost like once you start the trip, you better make sure that you're not reflecting too much about why you've done it after the action, because you'll overthink it, and the next thing you'll be spiraling inwards into some hellhole. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I'm interested to know how you use psilocybin to help people deal with those kind of delicate things like anxiety. And
so there are 2 aspects to this. One is for myself to remain grounded and stay present and stay aligned, just as a teacher, to continue to be on this spiritual journey. Life comes with a lot of lessons. One of the most important ones for me is about letting go. Letting go of youth, letting go of all the things that you are going to have to let go of, eventually body and life. And you can go through life kicking and screaming and learning that lesson, or you can do it just flowing through it. And just being in a flow state, being present, that helps me be the best person that I can be for others. When my cup is filled, it's so much easier to help others and do it well and do it with passion and love. So for that reason, I can sometimes do these trips under guidance.
So you're guiding?
No, I have other people guide me.
But what about what you were saying about
so that's the other aspect of it. So in my own, when I do medical consultations, there are going to be consultations. I'm not going to be treating people because I don't have a business setup where I have insurance or I can be liable. I can make recommendations, and if I were to I can neither confirm nor deny if I do this.
Okay.
But
disclaimer.
If
you were to.
Yeah, in the hypothetical scenario where I guide somebody and using psilocybin as a medicine, we would have to set up a dose, set, and setting, first and foremost. And we would focus on the thing that person wants healed. And it can be a useful tool for some people, but it's a rare medicine to employ, because most of the time it's not at all what we need. Most of the time it's about lifestyle factors, fixing fragmented sleep, fixing diet, fixing exercise, recalibrating a high sympathetic nervous system state, fixing your HPA axis, your internal hormonal stress system. And all of these things, taking care of the fundamental physiology. Physiology comes first. And when you've dealt with that, fixing your breath, fixing your HPA axis, you're fixing your nervous system, just recalibrating it to a base state, where you're back to healthy homeostasis. That's when the body can heal itself. I find weed or cannabis to be a tremendous tool for a lot of healing. Because what the endocannabinoid system, this is fascinating. Ask any doctor about the endocannabinoid system, and they will have no clue what you're talking about. Yet, this is one of the most important systems that we have in our body. It's one of the most important systems that we have in our body. Yet very few doctors have even heard about it because of political reasons. This is crazy. that's a sign of a broken system if I ever saw one. So what the endocannabinoid system does, a lot of people have the experience that cannabis takes care of their pain, fixes their sleep, helps them relax, takes care of their anxiety or their appetite. In fact, cannabis does none of those things. But what it does is that it nudges the endocannabinoid system to fix all other systems. What the endocannabinoid system does and is it is a conductor of the body. It governs all other systems. It governs every organ in your body. It governs all other systems. So there's no such thing as there's such a thing as healthy pain. Pain is a good mechanism. We need pain. That's part of our physiology. But there is no such thing as healthy chronic pain or healthy overwhelming pain. When pain is overwhelming or chronic, something is wrong. And what's usually wrong then is that the ascending pathways from, let's say you have a herniated disc in your back. That place is when you have a herniated disc in your back, the pain, it comes from 3 different components. It comes from the disc actually breaking. It comes from the inflammation caused by the fluids leaking out and affecting the nerves. And then it comes from the actual pressure on the nerve. So it's a nociceptive pain, which means just tissue damage pain. There's an inflammatory pain, and there's neuropathic pain, pain within the nervous system. Very complex pain. So the ascending pathways from the spinal cord, delivering pain signals to the brain, those, if pain is essentially the only sensory stimulus that doesn't fade with stimulation. If you look into a bright light, you're eventually going to stop seeing. Because the receptors in your retina get overwhelmed, so they stop signaling. If you put pressure on a piece of body, or if you caress your skin, eventually you stop feeling it as much. The first bite of a meal tastes more than the second and the third. Every sensory input diminishes with more stimulation, apart from pain. Pain is the only one that increases with persistent stimulation. So when this pain doesn't go away, when it doesn't heal, it just continues and it ramps up. So in the ascending pathways, you will have turned up the volume of the pain. And eventually you will also have the descending pathways, which are going down from the brain to the injury site, that prevent the sensation of pain, that are the body's own pharmacological way of diminishing pain. Those don't really work anymore. So what the endocannabinoid system does is that it nudges the pain system to turn down the volume of the ingoing pain signals and turn up the volume on the inhibiting signals. So it lets the body fix itself by correcting imbalances. That's what cannabis does. It puts your body back in proper homeostasis, back into balance, so that it can heal itself. That's why it often takes a few weeks for cannabis to start working on your chronic fatigue syndrome, or your chronic pain, or your stress syndrome, or whatever it is you're struggling with. But it can be a tremendous tool if used correctly.
Are you saying that your body can heal itself from, forget physical trauma or whatever, are you saying your body can heal itself from anything?
Not anything, but we are vastly under appreciating the body's own healing potential.
Like, go back to the aging cell, what we were talking about at the start. And you think that this new frontier of science is about
devising therapies against the hallmarks of aging.
Will your body, is the aging cell happening because of dis-ease, or is it happening because it's inbuilt into the getting old algorithm or whatever?
Yeah, that's probably going to be something we discover along the way of entering the third medical paradigm. What we know now is that in 2013 came a paper titled The 9 Hallmarks of Aging that looked at decades worth of the biology of aging. And we now know that there are 9 diseases at the cellular level. Things like DNA breaks, telomere attrition, intracellular signal pathways that are disrupted, epigenetic alterations, these types of things. And some of them happen because of toxins. Some of them happen because of radiation. Some of them happen just by pure chance. We don't know why. So, there are, and mitochondria, like all of these things that we know now cause aging in the cell. What we can do now is now that we have identified these diseases, is that we start to design therapies and treatments against these diseases at the cellular level. And then that's a way of immunizing against age-related illnesses. The body can heal a lot. I don't know how the body would heal these types of diseases. We might discover that it can at some point if we just nudge it in the right direction.
I mean, presumably, it's easy to argue.
We do have a lot of enzymes that actually take care of telomere attrition and DNA breaks and so on. So we have a lot of already working mechanisms to repair, but when those are working and in place, then we age at the rate that we do now. So we're trying to reverse that. Evolution works in a way that it keeps you healthy until you have served your purpose, which is to have kids, take care of the kids, and then be a grandparent and pass on your wisdom. But after that, the diseases start accumulating very rapidly.
So, as what I was going to say, presumably the aging cell is an evolutionary adaptation which keeps generations flowing.
Yeah,
what you don't really want is, well, what the evolutionary force obviously didn't want was people living too long, because then the generational change would be slowed down somewhat. But then again, you could have more children. You could have more children if you lived longer.
And I mean, if we're afraid of overpopulation and stuff like that we would have other mechanisms for that to take care of itself, if that were a thing.
So why do we die then? What's the point? Why do we need to die?
Tim, we don't know. Death is very, very mysterious. So, something that I've seen in deep psychedelic states is, when you get to peer beyond the veil of reality, when you get to look at the source code of reality, when you're in this, when you have that experience of reality starting to glide, and then you're no longer in this place, and you start to see that time isn't time. Physical space isn't physical space. It's all an illusion. None of this exists. Ioni Appelberg doesn't exist. This is just a character that I have created. I am not Ioni Appelberg experiencing the universe. I am the universe experiencing Ioni Appelberg. And I'm quite happy with that. I like this character. But
lucky. It could be a nightmare if you did that.
So when you have that experience of just reality gliding away from you, and you see that, oh, nothing exists. Time is just an illusion. Like, we have this idea that we are coherent individuals. We have the illusion in our mind that we have an identity. We have memories, like a string of pearls, creating this coherence. We have this voice in our head. We have all these mental modules that create a cohesive organism. None of that is real. We are not individuals. We are the illusion of an individual. We have the illusion of time. We have the illusion of physical space. but none of this exists. And when you go into that place and you just have your worldview completely shattered, and you're in that place with probably fairly high anxiety, and you're terrified, seeing that time is not what we think it is. Physical space is not what we think it is. You and as an individual doesn't even exist. And then you come back from that. You have to make peace with that nothing is as it seems. That can be a real challenge, and it can be quite anxiety inducing. I'm not in that place at this exact moment, so I'm talking about it intellectually. So I can't put the emotion behind it that it deserves. But I also know that I've been there, and I've had to make peace with the idea that time isn't real, physical space isn't real, I'm not real, and then come back from that and start building a life from within that pain, and make that life worth living despite that, all of that pain that those realizations bring.
Go to the question though, what is it all about? I mean, with that experience, it would be very easy for me to hypothesize that we live in a simulation, a computer generated simulation, especially now what we know about computers. Yep. And what's coming, because you can kind of predict a little bit into the future of computers. It would make sense that it was just a bit of an experiment. Not because the way you described it was that really it doesn't matter. None of this is real and none of it matters, which you kind of get a sense of if you actually spend a quiet moment on your own away from it all. It's very easy to look around and go, yeah, right now, this is just what it is. I fully accept this. And actually, it doesn't matter. Like, do I even, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Staring death in the eye. Death laughs at all of us. All we can do is laugh back. So when we look death in the eye and make peace with it, and when if you have the courage to make peace with the fact that it just isn't real, and not just end up in a psychotic state, if you have the courage to go on that path, I think it could be worthwhile. But it's not for everybody.
But many people would say, "What you're a fool if you carry on at that point. If you realize nothing matters, not in a nihilistic way, just in a, it's not like I don't care anymore. It's like it's not important. If I was to fail right now, it wouldn't matter.
Exactly. You can look at it like, holy shit, nothing matters. What the hell are we doing? Or you can look at it like, holy shit, nothing matters. Fucking awesome. I get to decide. You can leverage to your benefit as well. But
leverage what?
That nothing matters. Everything you make of this exactly what you want. Okay, yeah. You have the human experience. Body gives you the human experience, and you make of it exactly what you want. Here's a secret that no one is telling you. There are no laws. There are no rules. There are people that think that there are laws and rules. But you are a human being on this planet. You get to decide. You do life exactly as you want.
And we are living, it's very easy to look around you and realize we're living in a world where the tension is between control and freedom.
Yes. Yes.
It's very easy. The way you described it there is, if you were to tell yourself that, what you just said, the only reason you would is because people are trying to control you. Other people or other forces are going to control you. And the antidote is, I'm free.
Exactly. And that's a mental shift. And when you see these things, when you meet death, when you meet the source code of reality, you can just laugh at all that. Another grown man is telling me, a grown man, what I can and cannot do with my consciousness. That is absolutely ridiculous. The consciousness is the most intimate thing that we have. And people are trying to control that. My consciousness is my consciousness. And nobody has any say in what I do with it.
But what about physical control?
Yeah.
What about you're locked in a cage? You're in Auschwitz or whatever. You're locked in a cage somewhere. You're being controlled by a
crime against God.
Right, but how do you man's search for meaning, obviously. Right. Are you gonna go down that route when I say how do you deal with that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's about having a why. That's essentially Viktor Frankl's message. You can bear anyhow if you just have a why. And finding a why.
But with regards to that, you were saying, I agree with you when you say, when you actually spend the time to go into it, you realize, yeah, I'm free. I'm free. It doesn't matter what the government says. It doesn't matter what my partner says. It doesn't matter what that guy over there who wants to beat me up says. I'm free, But there is a physical reality that we have to address, and that is, I can't get out of this room without opening a window or a door because there's a barrier there. But I mean, I'm not against believing that I can walk through that wall. I'm really not. My mind is open to the possibility. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you said to me, no, but Tim, really, you can walk through that door, a bit like the Matrix or something, I could probably be brought to a point where I really believed it so much. Who knows? I might be able to walk through that wall. I don't actually know. It sounds stupid and crazy and ridiculous, but really, theoretically, you could go there.
We're bound to the physical world as physical beings. We're bound by its laws. That said, if I ever were to find myself incarcerated for whatever reason, and I did not enjoy the physical world that I found myself in, I would free myself spiritually, take the opportunity to go deep into a spiritual realm where I am free, and it doesn't matter where I am or when I am, because I would be free and I would have all the things that I can provide for myself, which is peace, love, and happiness. Those things don't come from achievements or from the exterior world. They help. The external world, as you architect it, can certainly put you in a place that you appreciate more. There's beauty in the world that we can appreciate.
Yeah, but what about if you're being tortured?
Yeah,
in some hellhole in Afghanistan. I don't know. You're captured and you're tortured, and how did I know this is an extreme, but I do want to understand what's possible, because I know the theory and my life is sweet, but really when you look at the amount of pain and suffering that I have to endure, it's really under my own control. Right. If I choose to suffer, it's because I go out and I climb a mountain and it hurts or whatever. I don't even get into those scenarios where but it's probably coming, actually, when you think of it. I mean, if you look at the state of the world, as someone who appreciates freedom, and as you do, the world is coming in. It's encroaching more and more and more. I don't really like being told what to do, obviously, especially not by people who I don't respect and who I don't feel like it's a fair fight. I'm thinking about, just say, even the state would be a good example. It's getting crazy. It's getting ridiculous. The rules, the regulations, the laws, the quagmire of nonsense is ramping up more and more every day. You hear the most ridiculous story of incompetence or ridiculousness. And in the end, I think we all fall foul of the state. So we all become illegal. We all become criminals. I'm almost a criminal. I mean, obviously, on a day-to-day basis, we're all criminals. We all do things. We all break rules and break laws, but not in an overt way. But I'm starting to notice that that's happening. We were talking about the online safety bill in the UK this morning, and I was already using a VPN anyway. It didn't really matter, but thousands and thousands of Brits are now using VPNs that weren't before that act. Cool. Problem solved. When they ban VPNs, I'm a criminal. And I've been using a VPN for years, and I'm a criminal. Not because I'm trying to skirt this rule, even though I would use it for that, obviously it's none of their business. If I want to go to a over 18 site, it's literally none of anyone's business except my own. But I'm now a criminal, and I'm an overt criminal, because it would be very hard for me not to, on this podcast, when someone says, I would say, fuck it. No, I nothing changed. I was Tim Allen, surfing, as Freddie said this morning, surfing the Reddit forum for craft beers. 2 weeks ago, I didn't need to present my credit card. Now I do, because it's a craft beer. Did you know this? This is how ridiculous it's getting. This online safety bin in the UK. It basically has earmarked a bunch of sites as not safe for children. And if you want to go to them and you have a British ISP, you have to now put your credit card details in. And everyone thought, oh, it's Pornhub, it's whatever. It's not. No, it's, for example, it's the AI I use. Venice.ai was the first one. My daughter came to me and said, Dad, look, it's asking me for, I was like, well, you look, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, it really is. She had a VPN set to her phone. I gave her a phone, and it has a VPN on it, and it was set to England, which is what we kind of do. I'm only interested in the privacy app point. I don't need to be jumping around the world looking at different TV stations and all this kind of stuff. This umbrella term of keeping the children safe means that now, if you want to go on the Reddit forum for craft beer, because it's an over 18 type thing, you need to do that. I mean, this is late stage Soviet Union now, right? Like
we have been in civilizational decline since the 1970s.
I think probably, yes.
I was
born in the 70s.
Yes. Congratulations.
1971.
That's
what the fuck happened in 1971, mate. When everyone talks about that, WTF 1971,
what happened?
It's like, I was born, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. So in my Abundance Through Scarcity thesis, I argue that we peaked as a civilization in the 1970s, and since then we have declined fairly rapidly. I mean, we've had technological development and economic development since then, so that sort of masks the decline. But it's the natural state of any civilizations to ebb and flow in and out of decline and progress. So that just goes in waves. But the decline can sometimes become dangerous, and it becomes particularly dangerous when we have a trifecta of disease, war, and natural catastrophes coinciding. Because those three events, especially when they coincide, become too expensive for any society. We can't muster the resources to take care of all of them at the same time. We can often deal with one or two, but when they come at the same time, it becomes very, very challenging to deal with them. And this is what we've seen in many civilizations that have fallen. That is those three things that coincide. And what every state then does is that they start devalue the currency, produce more of the currency with the same face value, so they can, which means that they're confiscating the purchasing power of the people of today, but also the purchasing power of people of tomorrow. So they are stealing from unborn generations to bolster the government and the military, so that we can deal with these threats now. But it never works. It never works. And when it doesn't work and we lose the purchasing power of money or the functions of money, that means we lose the ability to coordinate resources, coordinate the workforce, and continue to build. We lose the ability to cooperate. And that just leads us further down on the decline. And that's where we are now. We start to see symptoms of civilizational decline. That comes in stages, and those stages are predictable, and we can just put a line through them and see where we are and compare it to previous civilizations. We see it when you have a debasement of money, you are debasing civilization itself. We see it in our education. We see it in our food, in our architecture, in our relationships. We see it in our health. We see it in our culture, in everything. And then we see it in our population numbers. When population numbers start declining, that's a late symptom of civilizational decline. And right now, if we look at Europe, for example, you need 2.11 children per woman to maintain a steady state. Whenever you go below 1.9, we don't have any historic example, Tim, of a nation or an empire or a civilization that has gone below 1.9 and that has recuperated. Every civilization that's gone below 1.9 has fallen. Greece, 1.2, dead. Germany, 1.4, I think, dead. France, 1.4, dead. Sweden, 1.4, dead.
That doesn't bode well for feminism then, does it? Because arguably the reason that population is declining is because women have choices now. And when a woman has a choice, I mean, I don't know if this is true, I'm not a woman, but when a woman has a choice, she doesn't have 6 kids. That seems to be what's happening here. But a lot of people would say that's not civilizational decline.
No, so what typically happens is that when we go from, say, a poor society like a hunter-gatherer society or an agricultural society into an industrial one or a digital one, and we have prosperity, is that we go from about 8 kids per woman to about 2.5, 2.2.
Do we?
Yeah. But we stabilize around 2.2.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we don't go below that. When we start going below that, that's pathological.
And in our, do you know what it is? Say, pick the US probably.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is currently in the US?
It's the fiat system.
No, do you know what the
numbers? It's hard to talk about the US as one.
All right,
one
pick
place.
a country. Just give me an idea.
Yeah, so Greece, 1.2.
Really? And Greece is right.
The South Korea, I think there's something like 1.
So explain to me,
0.7.
break down then why the fiat system is causing birth rates to go down in Greece. What are these incentives there?
Yeah. So the fiat system forces us into short-term thinking. We all know that money is a mental operating system that governs time preference. Language is a mental operating system that governs how we see and experience the world. Money is a mental operating system that governs how deep into the future we value, think, and plan. And when the money erodes, when we can no longer save for the future, and when money is broken, the debasement of money leads to our intellectual, a debasement of our intellectual understanding of money, so that we start to think that things like taxes, inflation, surveillance, and these things are natural. They're not. And when money stops working and we are forced to survive here and now, we're not concerned with our meditation routine, our gym routine, or building something for the future. We see it very clearly in every society that has devalued their currency, that they stop building for the future. Right now, when we build a structure, when we build a home, we're happy if it stands in a few decades. We hardly care what it looks like. And then we go back to ancient Rome. 2,000 years ago, they had very good money for a few centuries. And we see it. We see it in their morals. We see it in their architecture. They had inscriptions on their Pantheon, Colosseum, their aqueducts that say things like, I built this structure to stand for 10,000 years. Who thinks like that today? Nobody thinks like that today because we don't even have the ability. We see it in their we see it in their military. We see it in their philosophy. We see it in their education. Good money breeds a good civilization. When money breaks and you don't have the ability to save anymore, you're stressed, you're afraid, and you are just struggling to keep your head above the surface. That forces you into survival mode. And that creates a world where we have broken education, broken relationships, where we swipe Tinder instead of dating and building families. food deteriorates over time because with rampant inflation, food gets more expensive to produce. So we switch out good food for bad food because bad food is cheaper. And so we have bad education, bad relationships, bad food, poor architecture, and we have a lot more tension and social unrest. We have wars coming from this over resources eventually. There will be, you are now busy getting long educations and working yourself to death. You're not building families, and you don't even want to put kids into the world as it looks under an advanced fiat system. And when I say advanced, I mean a fiat system that has progressed long enough to start deteriorating civilization. So you don't want to put kids into this world. You can't put kids into this world because you can't afford it. And you are busy trying to survive. So this leads us to having fewer and fewer children over time. And that's a late symptom of civilizational collapse when we have a decreasing fertility rate or when we end up below replacement rate. And this is, I mean, we know for a fact that we need more people to sustain civilization. No civilization has survived when their money breaks. None. And what we see is that population numbers decline, and that's when it starts to really happen. Then it's gone too far. There's been 0 examples in history where we've gone below 1.9, and a lot of countries in Europe are already below 1.9. And we already have the worst money in human history. We have successfully monetized debt, which is the opposite of money, which is the reason we can create an infinite amount of it from thin air. It's a dire situation. But we have Bitcoin. And Bitcoin gives us this alternative monetary system that is almost ready to go. And that can allow us to again start coordinating our resources and the workforce and foster cooperation across continents and generations in a way that we can do the only logical and possibly the only thing that could possibly heal civilization in decline, which is to continue to build. To continue to build until the pendulum swings from decline to progress again. It would be unprecedented if we manage to get out of this situation. I personally don't see that Europe can exist in 100 years. Not in the way that we think about Europe. What we're having is essentially an Islamification of Europe, where in France they have 1.4 children per French native woman, but 8.1 per Arabic woman.
Really?
Yeah.
8 children?
Yes. So we have mass immigration. We have it in UK, we have it in Sweden, we have it in a lot of countries. And we can no longer preserve the traditional European values and culture. That is just a fact. We might need the immigration to uphold the institutions as they are now, because we need the people, we need the workforce, and so on. But Europe, as we think of it, is not going to exist in 100 years.
I'm not sure about the Islamification thing. I think I know the arguments and even the statistics, but it'd be interesting to see if that really does occur. I know a lot of people say it, but a lot of people who I don't necessarily trust seem to say that as well, which does tar it a little bit for me. Because often when people are quite dramatic about something, you get this a lot in the climate change brigade. We've got 7 years to, as soon as people start acting like that, that they're someone you probably shouldn't listen to, because, and I get a little bit about the Islamification thing. Certainly in British cities, you see huge Islamic communities. I remember, and even, Birmingham in the UK, I remember I went there with my wife a number of years ago. It was quite a long time ago, 5 or 6 years ago, to go to see something at the theatre. And when I walked through the centre of Birmingham, I was quite shocked, actually. So a lot of Islamic preachers just, like they used to see the old guys on the street corners with the Bible and stuff. I did find that a bit weird, and you do see a lot of that on social media, but I'm suspicious. Number one, because social media loves showing you all that stuff to get you feeling like
100%.
That. Yeah. And two, the people that are often shouting about it are people that, like, if Greta Thunberg told me the world was going to end, I'd be like, okay. She's got a history of anxiety, really. So that's an anxious person talking. Oh my God, we've got to fix this. It's like, okay. You get to understand, right? The person you don't want to listen to is the one who's the most scared of a certain outcome. You want someone who's very level-headed in that scenario. And the people that shout about that in that way. So I don't know whether it's, I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I don't know either that that there's an Islamification of Europe. What I see is, what I believe is that, with the current birth rates, we're not going to have the Europe that we think of today. And I think that the Islamic people are much more resilient, that they can come here and build a different kind of Europe. I don't see that that the countries that we have now are gonna be the countries that we think of them as now.
Agreed. Yeah. But what that means, I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's important, or, if that's, because, like you said, nothing's stable. Nothing has ever been stable. Things have always changed. When you were talking about the Roman Empire earlier, how many hundreds of years did that go on for? And it's gone.
Yes.
It's completely gone.
Yeah.
It's
well, you could argue that we are an extension of it, but they
as
saw
an empire.
Exactly. They saw collapse, and the definition of collapse is a rapid simplification of a complex society. And what happens when a civilization falls, and what's going to happen when Europe falls?
What does that mean, though? What does that?
Yeah,
look
what it means is that we have built a lot of complexity into society. So a complexity is a spiral. So you introduce a new technology. Say that you introduce steel, and with steel you get skyscrapers. With skyscrapers, you need to introduce, you get new problems for every complexity that you introduce. You need to take care of electricity and garbage disposal with skyscrapers, and then you have airplanes, and you need new laws and regulations on how that works. So with every new technology that we introduce, you introduce more complexity, and it just you can never reach a solution, a resolution where everything's just solved and we have everything we need. Complexity is a continuous spiral, and it gets more and more fragile and more expensive. So what happens in a collapse is that we lose a lot of that complexity, and along with that complexity, we lose a lot of knowledge, wisdom, culture, and technology. A lot of that is lost, often forever. We don't know exactly what we lost with the fall of the Roman Empire. And then society breaks down into these decentralized hubs, essentially, where the communication is sparse, and we go back to a much simpler society, and then we start rebuilding again. So we could see something like that, a modern version of that with Europe, where we break up and we lose a lot of
the thing about the Islamification thing is, if you look at the Middle East, it's Islamic, and Dubai and Sharjah and a number of those emirates are phenomenally modern, let's say. Like, I'd say there's a lot of complexity there, and a lot of it, for sure, is foreign talent putting its mark on a place. But I suppose what you're talking about in Europe is not Islamification, because Otherwise, you would say, why is Dubai? So, you're talking about more like a certain type of person coming who doesn't care about.
Yeah, Islamification is a loaded word, and it's not exactly what I mean.
Do you know what I mean, though? It's like, it's more that, like, because you could have Islamic scholars coming to the UK, and you would have beautiful architecture, presumably. I don't really know. I'm very suspicious of all that stuff. I for sure, there's many more Middle Eastern people living in, say, my country, the UK, than there ever were. What that means, I'm undecided upon at the moment. I am, because I know from working in the media that if you see something on the TV or on your app, it's probably been put there on purpose to enrage you. Mm-hmm. And you need to put it into context and say, okay, if I was to look at 1,000 things, how many of them would be this? If I took 1,000 pictures around the UK, how many of them would show me this? Probably none of them, actually. But it is interesting to know where that's going, because it brings up the problem, or I suppose it's a problem of this very unfashionable idea in this day and age that your culture is fine and you don't want to dilute it and you want it to stay as it is, which for someone like me, through probably many subconscious triggers since I've been alive, because there's been this real push to say, like to the point now where you unless you live in Poland, or if you're lucky, it's not very fashionable to say, I love British culture. You can say I love Polish culture because they've really just unabashedly just said, yeah, we are. But we have all lived through a time when, I don't know about you, how old you are, but I lived through a time when British culture was very specifically something that it almost is not now, 100% not now. There was not only a much more of a kind of racial homogeny to it, but there was just a cultural homogeny to it. And it's changed to the most diverse culture on the planet kind of thing. It's changed. That's what it's become. If you come to where I live now, British culture is still kind of alive and kicking, albeit quietly. It's very, and I don't just mean it's all Caucasian people, which it is, but it's the cultural side of it. It's the way that little English villages operate in a way that only you would know as a Brit. You almost certainly have the same thing in your own country. When you go to those places where very high trust, but no strangers, very particular about the cultural things that happen that make you feel part of something, those things definitely still exist. But as a nation, and this is probably true of most nations, I don't really know, I know about my own, is what we are being tempted to think is our culture is absolutely not my culture in the slightest.
Right.
But it's being projected as British culture,
right? And
it may well be. I may be in the minority now. I don't really know.
Well, if we don't have immigration from the Middle East or anywhere else, we are definitely going to fall. If we take Greece again, for example, Greece is not going to have a society. They're not going to be able to uphold their institutions unless they have a lot of immigration. It is.
Wait a minute. What does that mean? There's not enough people to.
There's not enough people.
Yeah, but like to do what? I mean, governments are way too big, aren't they? Maybe I often think that, especially thinking of Greece because of its rich history of governance. When you go back,
it's simple math. If there are no more people being born, we need to take in people from other places.
Doesn't it just mean you get a smaller population?
Yes.
Smaller institutions.
Yes.
Smaller government. Is that a bad thing? I mean, that's like your aging cell. Aging, isn't it?
Well, you could argue that we have an overpopulation problem, and we do in a lot of sense, but we have a much bigger underpopulation problem.
I don't think we've got an overpopulation problem. Maybe you mean too many people living in cities close proximity.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, some people will argue that we have an overpopulation problem. I don't.
Well, they never flew over Russia because you can fly in a plane very fast over Russia for hours and see nothing but forest.
Right.
So no, we're not. There's plenty of room on the planet.
There's plenty of room. Absolutely. But if we want to maintain society as it looks today and maintain the complexity that we have today, we need at least replacement rate. And we don't right now, which means that we are dependent on immigrants to keep society going. And so the countries that don't take in immigrants, they're going to fall much faster. And what this means for quite a lot of countries is that we're going to have more homogeneity. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's can be a very good thing, but I also know that there's going to be a lot of tension. There's going to be a lot of tension because it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of we are becoming something new in Europe. A lot of countries are under a transformation where we have to let go of what we think of them as being. It's the very same thing with a personal transformation. You can only get to your new life by saying goodbye to your former life. And that's the cost. The cost of your new life is your former life. And that can be a very painful process. And whether that means that some culture, some wisdom, some knowledge, some, I don't know, things can just disappear from society. And that's the only normal state that society has ever been, where we shed some things and move on to something new. That's just how things progress.
But the question people would probably raise at that point would be, is it progress though?
Right.
If you consider your culture is in decline and what's replacing it is, according to you, worse, then is that just the ebb and flow of, using the analogy of the cell? Is the state as like a cell, or is the country a cell, and it functions until it doesn't, and then a new cell is born? Well, it's probably not good, actually. Cells don't work like that. But think of it. I mean, I often think of all these things a bit like a breath. There's an ebb and a flow of most things. The state is a good example. It built into the complexity of the state is its demise, because it begins with all the best intentions it can begin, and it always ends at some point in the situation we find ourselves in now, which is incentivizing the worst people to rise to the top of the thing that is giving out the rules. And it's this self-perpetuating cycle of just bullshit. And the quagmire just gets thicker and thicker and thicker until it collapses under the weight of itself.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
Right. So, but
society collapses under the weight of its own complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually we don't have resources to maintain that complexity. So, progress is probably that's what doomed a lot of civilizations in history. They, expanded beyond their socioeconomic capabilities. They exhausted their resources, their easily accessible resources, until the point that they couldn't progress. So they started declining.
And what you're saying as well is the symptoms of that overstretching is a decline in birth rates as well.
That's a late
adding
symptoms.
Stress to the population, which is basically incentivizing people not to have as many children as you would. If you were en masse, people are probably looking at the world going, it's not the greatest time to bring too many kids into the world because I can't afford it. Or
they can afford them too busy, and they don't want to. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing now.
But why, if the Islamic thing's true, going back to that, sorry,
It's not only
How come,
Islamic
or whatever.
people.
If the immigrant,
yeah.
but the reason that it's interesting is because you said there was they were averaging 8 children per.
That's one statistic, yeah, and I think it's a bit cherry picked.
All right, but even if it's more, why aren't they doing the same thing under the same pressure?
Yeah,
I thought that was down to feminism. I assumed that was education, women's education, and women. It's emancipation.
That's part of it. That's
giving them the option to not have children, which is prior to things like the pill and education. Women just got pregnant continuously until they couldn't, and that's kind of how things operated. I don't know. I really find all that stuff completely just. I don't think the word's mesmerizing. I just can't think about it. I've got no idea. I find it hard to stretch my understanding out to this kind of mass of people. And I really find it's only easy to think about my own situation in that and my family and the people around me. And that's about it. I kind of stop there. Really do now. I just stop at the people I know and care about. And going forward, I think I'm realizing that that's who you need to look out for, probably.
Right.
And position yourself well if you believe there's some kind of a collapse coming, which I think on paper I probably would, but in reality, do things collapse? I don't know. It's very difficult to say.
What you have to take into account is that collapse is slow. There's no single generation that ever notices a collapse. The Romans didn't know they were collapsing, and they collapsed for 500 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, it takes time to collapse. It's such a slow process. What you would notice.
But how do you quantify the end of a collapse? Like, how do you quantify the end of the Roman Empire, for example?
That's the job of historians and anthropologists. They say there are a variety of dates suggested. There is no real consensus on when the empire ended. And same will be true for us. They might say that we have already collapsed now. I don't think that. I think it's early. But what you notice as when you go through collapse is that you don't have as big a claim on the economy as your parents did, for example. Or you may be eating food that is different, or the architecture looks different, or relationships have taken on a different nature. You notice these kinds of things. And that may create a longing back to a time that you never experienced, where things were just radically different. But apart from that, there's not going to be looting, fire, and rioting and screaming in the streets. That's a Hollywood version of a collapse. That's not how it happens. It happens over centuries. But we now have technology to make our decline go faster, because we have the printing machine. We have the money printer. So we can debase the money. And when we debase the money, we lose our ability to uphold our institutions and coordinate workforces and resources and foster cooperation and so on much faster.
Since the kind of digital age? Because fiat currency has been around for a while, hasn't it? But since the digital age, it's been supercharged.
Yes. It's been supercharged since the digital age.
So
exactly, right.
It's, I mean, when I end up having these kind of conversations about the state of the world, I often come back to the fact that the internet is the forcing function with all this shit, just like the printing press was the forcing function for a hugely chaotic period after it was invented. And in many ways, it's the release of information. The printing press did the same thing. And look at all the shit that happened after that historically. Now you've got this explosion of information, and it's changing people's minds on so many things. And now it's also confusing a hell of a lot of people. Yes. And you in our age, you link that with this technological advancements in travel, in, all this stuff. It's a recipe for disaster. I mean, it's, how people always say, look, historians, You look back at history and then it all makes sense. For me, it's making sense right now. I feel like we're in the thick of it, and it all makes complete sense.
I think that's because you're a Bitcoiner.
Well, right. Okay. Yeah. You may be right. I've got something to compare it to. I have. Yeah. It could be. But you know, I've stopped accepting the answer that Bitcoin fixes this.
Yeah.
It's not good enough for me anymore, because Bitcoin might fix it in 300 years, but Bitcoin doesn't fix your inability to spend Bitcoin because of KYC,
right,
for example, now. You know.
Yeah. No, and I don't think that's the point. Like, we have come to a point in Bitcoin, like where we have, very carefully taken care of a flame in a wind. And that flame has been very fragile. So hopium, all these smaller meetups, all these, when we have conferences and we cosplay these citadels, which is exactly which is what we're doing. We are just caring for that flame. But now that flame has grown to a point where we don't need that anymore. Bitcoin doesn't need me. It doesn't need you. It doesn't need Michael Saylor. It doesn't need, more conferences. Bitcoin can stand on its own legs now. So we are just at the stage where we can begin to talking about the risks of Bitcoin, of hyper Bitcoinization, and what it doesn't fix and how we can make it better, because Bitcoin has a lot of problems and it's going to cause a lot of problems. And it's not Jesus coming to save us. We treat it as a cult, and we kind of should, because there is mythology embedded in it. And
you say it's not Jesus. What is it that, you know? Like, one time, one of the first things I asked ChatGPT, actually, when it first came out, and it was good, I said, name some cultures that have a myth around the year 2000. And it gave me a few. And I thought, wow, there's some I haven't heard of then. So I put, name 50 cultures, 50 myths about the year 2000. And it gave me 50. This tribe from South America, this Christianity, the Second Coming, the Mayan calendar, loads. I mean, there are literally so many mythological examples of something around the year 2000 causing a change. What happened around 2000? It's either the internet or Bitcoin. And if you were to say, you know, like, the coming of Jesus, the Christ, it would never appear as a guy with a beard. Would never. That's not cool. That's not how you do it. Like, Jesus wouldn't appear as a guy with a beard, because no one would believe him, would they? If you came out and said, I'm Jesus, which people have, they'll say no. Come back as a digital store of value.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. For all I know, Jesus can be different things to different people.
Yeah.
And
but take any of the 2000 predictions.
For sure. Okay, we could absolutely entertain the idea that Bitcoin is Jesus. I'm not against that idea at all. But I do also see that Bitcoin comes with a lot of problems, and it's going to cause a lot of problems.
Same here. He turned the tables didn't he? The money traders outside the temple caused a lot of problems. Jesus.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, revolutions are bloody.
Well, put it this way, right? Something that's undeniable about Bitcoin, which all Bitcoiners know, is it does change the way you interact by account of following it like you would a religion. The morals, in inverted commas, of the Bitcoin ecosystem cause you to fall in line with them. And they are a certain ideology, longevity, trust, honesty, those kind of good attributes that we all think of as you do need to fall in line with those. And Bitcoiners do, and people that do change from high time preference thinking to low time preference. I've seen that in my wife. Even. Yes. Yeah,
that's a real thing.
It's a very real thing. I've seen it in one of my best friends as well.
And I think a lot of people underappreciate the importance of that.
Well, no, I would say I would easily believe that's the whole point of it. I think we reached this point in history if you go fully spiritual, macro spiritual, and say the world was reaching this point, either naturally this thing arose to counteract it because that's one of the laws of the universe, or somebody said, right, I'm going to counteract this myself. I probably believe it's a natural thing because I think, yin and yang just function together and everything tends towards equilibrium. But then I would say it was highly necessary, and without it, we would be hurtling in the same direction with no way of predicting how to bring people back to the idea of long-term thinking and all the stuff that goes along with it, I would easily believe that.
Yeah, time preference, lowering our time preference is how we avoid stagnation, and it is part of the engine of our cultural and technological evolution as a species. We cannot progress without continuously lowering our time preference. If we instead go the other direction and we increase our time preference, then we end up in a falling society, in a declining society without children and without making any progress.
Which is where we are now.
Yeah, that's where we are now.
And everyone does think in a high time preference. It's obvious. Yeah. You see it around you. Yeah. Everywhere. Yeah. You see it in more. The place I see it the most is in architecture and buildings. Yeah. Buildings get thrown up overnight, pretty much. My house that I live in now, built in the 1500s, the walls are as thick as that. They're like that thick. Yeah. You didn't need to build them like that.
The contrast is very evident in architecture. It's also huge. If you look at food, like we have gone from whole foods to fiat food, and that's also a radical change in how we live our lives. I think it's also very evident in our relationships. Young people are not dating. Young people are not having sex. People are swiping instead of building families. This is also because of high time preference.
I think, I'm feeling the conversation ebbing, but I don't want to end on a bad note. Do you know how long we've been talking?
Tell me.
2 hours, 55 minutes.
Okay,
we're almost
perfect.
over 3 hours.
So let's turn this around and talk about something much more positive.
Yeah, go on. You choose.
I feel like we never finished the Kardashev argument.
Okay.
Should we go there?
Yeah, go on.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. So we ended up describing the three levels of the Kardashev scale. We have a planetary, a stellar, and a galactic type of civilization, and we are currently at 0.6 or so. So, 0.6, 0.7. So we have a long way to go before we become.
But how do we know that this scale is correct, though? For example.
No, this was actually Nikolai Kardashev. He introduced the scale. Then Carl Sagan, the renowned astrophysicist and author, he made some mathematics from it. So there's an actual scale that you can look at, and you look at the energy output of a civilization.
How the hell do they work that one? That sounds a bit dubious.
Well, you can look at the math, and I don't understand it at depth, but it's there. And then you can also just look at it by analogy and just say that, okay, a planetary civilization is one that you have a planetary, a stellar, and a galactic civilization. You can just simplify it to that as well. Carl Sagan just put numbers on it. So we have, I would argue, we are approaching the Kardashev Type 1 civilization by introducing Type 1 technologies already now. Well, there's one that I haven't personally made up my mind on if it's a Kardashev Type 1 technology, so I'm going to skip that. But the first real Kardashev Type 1 technology that we have is the internet. That's our first truly planetary technology. And that's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Roads. And I haven't really made up my mind on that.
Well, if you say roads, you have to say arrowheads, wouldn't you? It's a planetary phenomenon.
It's a planetary phenomenon, but it's nothing that allows us to work together as a species, as a.
I know, but a road in the UK doesn't help you in America, does it?
Exactly. That's why I'm like, even if we have a global
shipping.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the fence about these types of technologies, but so I consider the internet to be the first Kardashev type 1 technology.
What would be another one? Give me
it's hard
to imagine.
Yeah, exactly. So another one would be a global hive mind, for example.
But that's the internet again, right?
It is, in a way. It's an extension of the internet, but where we communicate with thoughts. And because Internet 2.0 is not Web 3 or whatever, it is us communicating directly with thoughts.
Is that a transhuman thing?
It's a transhuman thing. It's an extension of the internet where we already have the technology to send texts with our minds.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Elon and
Neuralink is one example, and
okay.
he's not first with this. But yeah, they're making great strides. So we have the technology to actually text each other, but we don't have, like, telepathy. It's not magic. It's an engineering problem.
So telepathy for you is not me tapping into your brain.
No, it's us communicating
over the
through our
internet
thoughts.
with our thoughts. No,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It's
you
a
and
function
me.
of the technology. It's not.
Yes, it's you and I sitting here, not moving our lips and mouths.
But I'm not detecting your thoughts. Your thoughts are being transcribed into digital form, sent to me.
Yes.
And, right, okay.
Yeah.
Which is not really, maybe that is telepathy. But
It's one form. I mean, we could go back and forth on what the definition.
why would we do that? Do you think that's more liberating?
It's all about taking away friction in communication. We need faster. If we can communicate at the speed of thought, that would vastly improve communication. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can keep up with my own thoughts.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? When I speak,
you can't come. Yeah, it's much harder to, because thoughts are abstract, and if we can find a way to communicate directly without forming words, we would have an entirely new language eventually, where we don't have to articulate the words and transmit the words, but we can actually have abstract ideas just moving into each other's minds.
Like the mobile phone pad where you just make a shape.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
So that would be another type of Kardashev type 1 technology. But we have a second one, and that's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is our second Kardashev type 1 technology.
Is it?
Yeah.
I think of it as the internet again. I mean, it's the same. This is. I would say the K1 technology is the digital realm, because all these things are like, the digital realm was something we could never access until now,
right?
And it's a frontier. It's full of nothing. You can do all kinds of things,
and now we're colonizing it. We're colonizing the digital world,
and now people are trying to also police it already.
Yes.
It was quite quick. It was only 30 years, and they're already trying to say you can't do this here.
Yes.
It's like, it really was an empty, free frontier for.
So with the internet is essentially also just an extension of Gutenberg's printing press by further democratizing information, freeing the written and spoken word to the people.
Well, the spoken word is that's the revolution.
That is the revolution. Yeah, absolutely.
We already had that.
And what the internet did for information, we now have Bitcoin doing for value. And I mean, we can also look at, like, we're going to need money for quite a long time going forward. And Bitcoin we can use as a type 1 civilization, because we can use it on the moon. We can use it on Mars with some difficulties and some trade-offs.
Transmitting it over long distances isn't very. It has to work as a time chain, doesn't it?
You have to be able to, like, if you go further than that, you're not going to be able to sync with the network very well. So you're going to become a second-hand Bitcoin citizen if you do.
Well, it would be a different currency. I think it'd have to be, wouldn't it? Because
you could come back. Essentially, you can play with the idea, like, say that Australia was cut off from the internet for a few weeks. And then they come back online. All the transactions that they have made, they would sync with the blockchain, and the blockchain would heal itself. it's kind of like the same if you go into deeper space. You would need some time, but the time chain would heal itself over time. But around Mars, we reach the hash horizon. So it's very difficult to use Bitcoin beyond that point. But we can use it as a planetary monetary system. It's the first truly planetary monetary system that we have. In the sense that it aligns with what a type 1 civilization would be. A civilization free of coercion, a civilization that is free.
Is that the governance side of type 1? It's so much abundance. Well, no. You said that we'd still use money.
I don't think you can have a true type 1 civilization and not have it be free.
But I mean, a time comes, and probably not that long, where money becomes far less important because the marginal cost of things is almost zero. Once AI robots are also mining things as well as building themselves, and who knows what the marginal cost of those things will be.
Yeah. And then the question is, what are we to do?
Or what is money? What is money even necessary? Bitcoin may well be our last money.
I think Bitcoin is final money. I absolutely do. I think Bitcoin is the last form of money that we will need as long as we're bound to this planet, and we need money in the sense that we need it now. But that doesn't mean that I think money is going to go away. I think we're probably moving into a social economy, where what we truly prize and value is human connection, interaction.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I think we're going towards that. I think we're getting rid of all the menial jobs, and essentially every repetitive task that we don't want to do.
What will you do? Be a philosopher? Full time?
This is, again, the question of radical self-alignment. What I would do is I would spend time in nature, or I would do essentially what I do now. I would spend time in nature, but I would do it differently. I would have conversations with people. I would write. And I don't want an AI or a robot to do my art so that I can do my laundry and my dishes. I want a robot to do my dishes and my laundry so I can do my art. And I would do that. And I would do all the things that I enjoy. I would play chess. I would write books. I would have conversations with people. I would see places. I would spend time in nature. I would build a family. I would live freely and have peace, joy, love, and happiness.
I hate to try and burst your bubble, but at various times in my life, I've lived with that much freedom. And what I've realized is that I need the struggles, because it stops feeling like, it stops being meaningful without the struggles.
Yes. I'm not saying get rid of the struggles. I think they're part of the human condition, regardless of how you live your life. The struggles give life meaning. And I think they're just going to take on a different form. They're not going to come from having to wake up before you're fully rested. They're not going to come from you having to pay your bills. They're not going to come from disagreements with a boss you don't want to work for. They're going to come from different things. They're going to come from raising children, building things, and becoming a better version of yourself, performing the will of your community or your God or whatever it is. Struggle is part of the human condition. It's part of the trajectory that we're on as spirits on this planet. It's part of the lessons that we go through. So I don't see us ever getting rid of our struggles, and the struggle is going to be there whether we want them to or not, because we are bodies, we are emotions, we are thoughts, we are all of these things that come with inherent struggling. And just being in the human condition is a struggle in itself. It just doesn't have to come from the type of life that we have right now. It can come from a vastly different type of place that can be so much better than what we have now.
Don't you get the feeling that if you look at this community here in Riga now that we're with, and the freedom community in general, let's say, it's part of its allure is that we're all fighting for something. And when you get that thing, what happens? Because you see a lot of struggle groups. I think this has happened a bit in the gay community.
We need to fight.
Yeah, right. So what do we fight for when we've got it? I think the gay community have got what they wanted, and
then some.
Yeah, and it's not really so. It's really to have gay pride and things like that. I suppose it's fine. It's a good excuse it's like an excuse to go out and party, but really, you don't need it. I don't know about you, but no one cares about that fact anymore. I don't anyway.
Right.
And I'm quite normal, But what do Bitcoiners do when we're living on a Bitcoin standard and everything's cool?
I think we just want to experience progress. I think that's it. I think we want to experience progress, and that means fighting.
But well, I'm going to word it differently, because I think what I've noticed about myself when you take away those things that require struggle and bullshit and all that kind of stuff is I end up further in service, what I would call service. So for example, doing this, my belief in creating this show, because it doesn't make me money, it costs me money, but I can still get by, so it's not a problem, but I feel like I'm learning and someone else will learn. Someone might listen to, say, this conversation and have a real turning point in their life. Probably not. It's all over the place, but but that's service, and service is something that's easier to do when you take away the need to get up at 7 o'clock and go and do some bullshit job, for example, which is going back to your sort of scarcity mindset, abundance type thing. When you have abundance, the ability to be in service seems much better, and I think it's the most primordial meaning you can have in life.
Right.
Service.
Yes.
Even when you relate it to things like my kids are my most important thing in my life. It's still about service. It's still service to others. It's like I look after them, I do things for them, I teach them, I pay for them, it's not the kids, it's the service to the kids that is the thing that gives your life meaning. And it can be serviced you can be a philosopher and you can talk on podcasts for your living, and it's the service. You're hoping that people come with you on that journey and learn, and I think that would always, I think when I have the luxury to think about it, which should be all the time, but I've, like everyone, fall into the trap of getting stuck up in my brain and analysing things and getting too wrapped up in all that side of it. The truth is that service, and it's a great word, it really does depict the action very well, is the place I hope everyone arrives, or most people arrive, when AI takes away all the bullshit from our lives, which it might do the opposite as well, but the menial jobs can be replaced by you being in service to other people. And like you say, service requires a connection and with a human being, and which we're sorely lacking, as the internet is one of the sort of secondary effects of the internet, is this splintering of groups of people and we still think it's fine. It's brought me together with pretty much all my friends now, but I have to maintain that. I have to make sure I meet them in real life. It's not good enough to just, have those connections on the internet. But I don't know. What do you think? What happens to your life when you, when AI is washing your clothes? You've got a personal robot that does all that shit that gets in the way of the good stuff.
I mean,
got some microplastics. I'm actually going to get one out the fridge. Keep talking, I'm listening.
Yeah. So I think that when we don't have to do the kinds of jobs that we do today, we are first of all gonna have other types of jobs. We're still gonna be we're gonna redesign the rat race. I'm sure of it for some time.
In a bad way, same as the rat race.
Yes. Because it's gonna require more than just the ability to be productive on a scale that we've never been before. We've seen that time and time again, where we, with the Industrial Revolution, we replaced our muscles, and now we're replacing our cognition. But that has only ever led to us demanding more. So I think that we are gonna lose a lot of jobs and create a lot of new ones, and we're just gonna expect more. And that's gonna lead to a new kind of rat race. I'm not sure, we can sort of see the shape of it, but we can't see the details of it yet. But let's say that we can entertain the idea that we will find ourselves in a world where we are in a post-scarcity economy and a post-labor economy, where we don't have to do jobs to make a living. And what lives look like, what our lives will look like then, can be challenging for people who've been working their entire lives now. They don't know what they would do with all that time because they have been indoctrinated into that world. They're damaged by the rat race. They have essentially forgotten what it means to be human. If we look back a few thousand generations, let's go back, say, 30,000 years or so. What our days look like then, we tended to our injuries and our peers. We tended a fire. We gathered food. We traded with other tribes. We sat around the fire and shared stories. We connected with nature, with the stars, with cosmos, with self, with other, with God. We made much fewer decisions. And I think that is a much, much richer life than what we have now. It sounds like it contains less, so therefore it should be a lesser life. It is not. This is what your life looks like now. You wake up feeling drowsy, you have your caffeine, you go about your day and make a gazillion decisions. And for every decision that you make, you are clogging your pathways in your mind with glutamate, an excitatory neurotransmitter. And then throughout the day, adenosine, which is another neurotransmitter that builds sleep pressure, builds up through the day. And then you have a lot of impressions and things like this that you're going to have to process. And then you go to bed. And then you start to, that washes away the adenosine, the sleep pressure molecule and the glutamate. And then, but you never really get to a place where your mind is clean. So then you go about the next day with some debt, sleep debt and neurochemical debt. So you compensate for that by drinking more caffeine. And caffeine is one of the coolest molecule evolutionarily that has ever come into existence. It is a molecule that awakens you, but then prevents you from sleeping. But it creates the solution to the problem that it creates. And it's highly addictive. So it has gone from this, just from this place in the Middle East and then colonized the entire planet because it has hijacked our species. So we now live a life where we are constantly in a neurochemical imbalance that is hurting us. And on top of that, we are consuming more and more content because we are lacking in dopaminergic resiliency. So we are now not as dopaminergic resilient as we used to be. And what that means is that when you're not dopamine resilient, what that means is that you are much more inclined and at risk of binge eating and falling into doom scrolling and things like this, and you don't get enough reward from a conversation or exercise. So you get less reward than you would normally in a healthy dopaminergic system. And then when you get a spike, or rather you get a spike from certain things like eating chocolate instead of just having a normal response to it, and then you're more likely to fall into a binge. So we are neurochemically imbalanced, and that's the life that we lead today. And it's hurting us. It's not fulfilling us. And like I said, on top of that, we're also consuming so much content. I remember back in the day when podcasts weren't as popular as they are today. One of the first ones that I really enjoyed was Radiolab. And it was this like a science podcast, and I would listen to it at 1x speed, and I would listen to it twice, and I would take notes. And then I would talk to my friends about it. I had perfect retention. Now I listen to a lot of podcasts at the very minimum 1.5 speed, often 2 times. And I listen to 100 podcasts, and I listen to several a day. I have 0 retention.
That must be weird. I still sit down quietly and listen to one.
You're an exception, Tim.
And that's why. But that's what this is. This is a 1x podcast we're having, and it's super enjoyable. It's super enjoyable. I've had my mind blown listening to 2 people sit at a table talk who live on the other side of the world at a different time in history. You know, I don't see the point of. It's not enjoyable to listen to them at full speed, but it's missing the whole point of a podcast.
Yeah,
like you can
realize that
sit at this table if you get it right. It works with headphones.
Yes.
Sitting at home, it's a joke. I always say it in the intros to my pod. You know, sit down, find a quiet spot, relax, enjoy the next couple of hours, because it's like that's the point. It's enjoyable talking. Do you know what? It's even more enjoyable listening.
Yes,
really. You know,
engaging with the conversation, be part of it. That's very difficult to do in the fiat system.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of opportunities. You know, you can listen to a podcast when you're doing other things. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. But there's so much. There's so much. Yeah. So, and that's the point. What kind of life are we looking forward to? What can we look forward to in a world where we don't have our fiat jobs anymore, and we don't have the types of responsibilities that we don't have?
What are we going to talk about that?
We'll have a lot to talk about. We'll remember what it means to be human beings. We'll sit around the fire. No. This is it's going to be a wonderful time.
You're absolutely right though that I've been a keen observer of fires for a very long time, and I've always sat around fires. I've taught it to my children. We all sit around fires in the winter inside, in the summer outdoors. We cook over open fires. The tradition I feel like I was put on this earth to do is the storytelling tradition. For a lot of my life, I've done it through visual storytelling.
Right.
But I never felt as comfortable as I do now just talking about stuff. And it's primordial.
It is primordial.
The talking. We've got no fire, but this is the same thing. This is what we do. We talked about our day. We're talking about much more bigger ideas potentially. But
yes, we live through our stories. And we live through other people's stories, and human beings are storytellers. We are a species of engineers, explorers, and storytellers. That's what we are. And I think we're going back to that, and I think it's going to be liberating. I think that we are gonna rediscover what it means to be human, to connect with one another and realize that life is perfect just as it is. We don't need to fill it with a lot of stuff. We don't need to make a gazillion decisions a day. It's perfectly fine to just be. And where we can learn that our primary architecture is to just be, not to do. We are human beings, not human doings. And where we can rest comfortably in our being. I think that is where we can flourish truly. We can be in a place where we connect with self, other, nature, the cosmos, and just have endless conversations, or just sit in silence and just be. And that is a wonderful, wonderful experience.
What about cave 3 societies, though? We'll never get to there, though. If we're all sitting around the fire chatting, how are we going to master the energy of the solar system? Or the galaxy?
That's part of the jobs that we will have. That's part of going there. We're always going to have our struggles, our technological struggles, our philosophical struggles. And
so you think we could? This is something I've always found fascinating about the Bitcoin community is you get all these people heavily into Bitcoin tech, freedom tech, this kind of stuff, but everyone dreams of having a homestead, and it's this funny little balance between the two. Is that what you're talking about?
This is the solar punk vision.
Is that right? I've never solar punk. I've never heard that.
Yeah, before. The solar punk vision is when we are rediscovering what it means to be human, and that might for somebody means running around naked doing LSD all day. For others, it might mean sitting around a fire telling stories. For somebody else, it'll mean being an explorer. Right now, we are peering into the oceans of the cosmos. And as Carl Sagan said, the waters are looking quite friendly. We're going to be standing on others' stellar bodies, being explorers. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of meaningful work to do. And then there's a lot of being to be done.
All right, final question. You're going to love this one. Why? Why do we need to go out into space? Why do we need to do all this stuff?
Because we're honoring the human experience. As human beings, we are engineers, we are explorers, and we're storytellers. And as a consequence of that, we will go to we will look beyond the hill. We will row across the pond. We will build ships and airplanes and spacecraft, and we will explore. And then we will tell our stories. We will tell stories about our days, stories about our adventures, stories about our ideas. And your primary purpose, your primary archetype is just to be. All of the other stuff is something that we do because we can and because we want to, but we don't have to. The only thing you have to do as a human being is to be. And you can always find your personal why, and that is up to you, because there is no meaning inherent to the cosmos. You create it. So we have, as Brian Cox says, a tremendous responsibility as a species, because if our species goes extinct, we might eliminate meaning from an entire galaxy by virtue of going extinct. So we have a tremendous responsibility on a cosmological scale, preserving meaning. Because you and I create meaning. It doesn't exist. You and I create it. It doesn't exist inherently in the cosmos. We create it. So you decide what your why is. The only thing we can do is to honor the human experience. And if you want to live a radically aligned life, my suggestion is that you learn to live in body and learn body's way of communicating with you. And you are either a storyteller, an explorer, or something that is aligned with what it means to be human. We don't have to invent all of these crazy kinds of jobs just to have something to do. We don't need more content just to numb ourselves. There's a life to be lived and a human experience to be had.
So, because. Ioni, I think we better knock it on the head, mate. It's not. That's 3.5 hours. I'm like, my brain is frazzled. I feel like I've done a little bit of, tiniest bit of Bufo. But it's in a good way.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I loved it.
I enjoyed this.
Thank you for a great conversation.
Thank you.
And good luck. I still feel like I don't know the answer, but I'm not sure I knew the question. Because really, at the end of the day, what can you do? Put one foot in front of the other and live your life. It doesn't matter why.
You have to make peace with that reality doesn't exist, time doesn't exist, the meaning doesn't exist, and death is an illusion, life is an illusion. You have to make peace with these. If you like, you can intellectualize these things, and then they don't really mean a lot. But when you truly see it, it takes on a different meaning, and then it can be quite difficult to make peace with. But if you choose to do a spiritual journey in life, you have to make peace with these kinds of things.
Yeah, I could easily make peace with doing nothing right now. I need some time off. All right, Ioni, thanks, mate, and enjoy your talk tomorrow on your panel and all that kind of stuff. And it's been great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.